Hey everybody, this is Emmy Thomas. I'm here with PYT. PYT, I'm going to ask you same question I ask everyone. What is it like to be you?
Well, what I like to tell people is it's like it's like being in a fishbowl where you're looking at people passing by and you're the center, always of it. When I was younger, I always knew there was something different about me, but at the same time, I thought everybody else was crazy.
Hmm.
And so I've always been kind of the center of my own universe, but I do describe it as looking through a fishbowl because everybody else is not relatable. And I don't find much value in people. So constantly just in my little fishbowl. That's me.
Uh-huh. I love it. It's interesting too because have you ever seen get a piece of paper so I can take notes. Have you ever seen there's the like a comic book kind of movie where one of the characters is like this like creature from the Black Lagoon or something. And so he wears water goggles the same way that we wear
Mm,
air goggles to swim in the water because our eyes have adjusted to see in air, but they could
hmm
have adjusted to see in water. But now, that's what it kind of reminds me of is like humans could go one pathway or the other, but once they're there,
Right.
they're pretty much there.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a real good way to put that for sure.
Yeah, if we just stayed in water, our eyes would have adjusted for that. In fact, I think our
Right.
eyes are adjusted for water from the womb.
I think so too. Yeah.
Mhm. Can I tell you a fun fact about the womb?
Yes.
The amniotic fluid is our pee-pees,
Oh, how
and
nice.
we breathe it in order for our lungs to develop.
Well,
So if you don't have a kidney, for instance, then you have low amniotic fluid and you will have
mm,
lung issues. Like they're all connected because of that reason.
right. The body is an interesting thing.
It's totally interesting. The mind is super interesting too.
It is. I was actually just having that conversation a couple days ago with someone about how just kind of made me think of that. Where some people they grow up in certain circumstances and some of them turn out to have borderline personality disorder. Some of them end up with histrionic. And then some of us lovely people have antisocial personality disorder.
For instance.
So it can be even very close to the same upbringing, but yet the mind, it goes all different ways. So,
I've been thinking about that a little bit with my siblings because they
hmm
had basically like the same upbringing and really similar genetics, but none of them ended up being psychopaths, but one of them does
hmm
seem they all seem kind of personality disordered. It's
right.
uh I wouldn't say there's like a clear label for each one of them. Maybe, but maybe I'm just kind of too close. I would say for one
hmm
sister, it seems like borderline. I've always kind of like sensed that she is like extra chameleon or extra, will just kind
hmm
of like take on the characteristics of her environment. But I also think too, how they say like no, like you don't have the same parents that your siblings have because they treat you
Right.
differently, and that I was like, "Oh, okay, ha ha ha, that makes sense." But recently, like with like not even recently, it's more like last year, honestly, when I was like thinking about the food scarcity issues that I experienced as a child for kind of like the first
hmm
time. And thinking, my siblings, only one of my siblings was like, yeah, I remember this, and had like the same exact memories of making the barbecue sauce sandwiches for lunch or like just
Right.
picking oranges or whatever. And then the other ones were like, no, we didn't experience food scarcity. And I was kind of like,
Right.
just have been thinking about that for the past year and thinking, what are the different reasons why that could be? And the funny thing is, though, is that especially one of the my older brother, his son is back from college. He's like been around, and he was talking about like all the dysfunctional eating that his dad does.
Right.
Like he does not order his own meals at restaurants. He just
Sure.
eats off
Sure.
of other people's plates or whatever. Like we have this word baby cast off, which means like a baby's eating half a hot dog. And he will just go around eating the baby cast offs, half a cup of chocolate milk.
Right. Well, I find
Totally.
it right. I find it interesting you bring that up too, because, in my background, so like once I started exploring this diagnosis further as I got older, so one of the main things that they feel very much contributed to the way I became was my mother used food as a punishment for me
Oh,
since the time
terrible.
I was, well, gosh, as long as, I can remember. So it kind of went in this timeline of, okay, my mother's very narcissistic. She's never been diagnosed with anything because in her words, God will never let that happen. So she's kind of one of
God won't let
those.
her be diagnosed.
Yeah, she just refuses God. What does she say? God is the great physician of all. He would never, but she used food as this way to, make me do certain things. And so as I got older, and especially in middle school and high school, that's when they kind of noticed too, I use people for resources
Mm.
because there was such a lack of, and not that my father didn't provide it, but my father wasn't home as much. So a lot of the abuse came from my mother. My father, being as deep in as he was with her, he covered it up. And so he did see it and he did recognize it later, which, I could get into further down the line, but um, I saw people, I love describing it as I view people as soda cans, just walking soda cans. They are something for me to crack open and drain. That's what it is. And so, when I tell people, yeah, I do feel superior to you, absolutely, I fucking do. And I will drain you of everything that you have because to me as a child, I go to school, I want your food. I was always looking for food. I was always looking for something from people. And so that's where that really developed was having this mom who used that against me so much and then going, okay, every single person on this earth is a resource for me to use. And there was no compassion or empathy. So I never displayed that to others. You're going to give me what I want, or I'm going to shed blood. And that's it.
I mean, it makes sense. When
Yeah.
people have like threatened your survival, especially that young, it's no way that you're like thinking in terms of moral terms of rightness and wrongness when you
Mm-hmm.
are being abused, when you are being starved.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it came with a lot of, there was the food is punishment, but then also being very critical of food. So, then in high school, when I gained weight or, stuff like that, my mom had this mindset of, okay, well, I'm going to be critical of everything you do eat then. And, she went on this kind of diet for herself, but you're talking about a high school, you're talking about a 14, 15-year-old, and she wanted me to be like her. I wasn't. And I was also adopted. So I was never going to be like her. And I think she had a lot of strong feelings about that. But it was like, okay, I remember we go through the drive through at Chick-fil-A. on the way to a doctor's appointment after school, she would ask me what I want. And I would tell her, just for example, okay, I want a number one and I don't want no pickles and I want a Dr. Pepper. And she would look at me and go, do you really think you need that? And I would say, well, if it's such a problem for you, then just order me the sandwich. And then she would get mad at me for then recanting and asking for just the sandwich. And then when we got the food, she would say, okay, well, I'll just get you the meal anyways, whatever. And then when we would get the food, she'd throw it at me. And on the way to the doctor's appointment, I'd say, well, you know what? I'm not hungry anymore. I'm just not. And then she would get mad at me for not eating it. And, at one point, yeah, like she would physically take the food and try to shove it in my face. And she's like, why do you have to be such a problem? Why are you such a horrible person to me? Like I was this horrific child because she created a situation that now I'm putting backlash on. It was just such manipulation.
And how much of that do you think you internalized? Her saying, you're the problem.
Um, I don't know to what degree I internalized it, but obviously, I think it was pretty significant because yeah, I went on to treat other people that way. It's almost like I had a PhD in manipulation, and it was like I never had to go to school to become a master manipulator. It was like I automatically took everything that my mom did and it just, it came out to other people but I think I did. I mean, but I would say not in the way I think other people do. Like for me, I would have dreams of just killing her. I just hated her. It was just so much anger. I wasn't a crier. I didn't have that button where like, oh, I'm sad or I'm fearful. It just angry, homicidal. I hope you perish. So,
I'm loving these stories so far. It reminds me a little bit though of there's from way back. I think some of her videos are still up. Way WEI. And she had like this
hmm
experience of noticing that other people found her repulsive. And
mm,
she kind of internalized or they responded to her with repulsion. And that was like how
mm,
she would understand, okay, I'm doing this thing that people find repulsive. I'm kind of a
hmm
repulsive person. I need to mask. That's how she
mm,
kind of thought of it. And so I
right.
wondered to what extent these like internalizations kind of like led to you if you did internalize it, or like how much that was like kind of carte blanche for you to be like, okay, people
hmm
think I'm this bad person, so I might as well keep being bad because like I
Right.
try to be good, they still think I'm bad, and so I'm getting the negative with none of the positives, the
Right.
reward of being bad.
Right. I think subconsciously when I was younger, that would definitely be a big part of it. But I think as I got older was when I started to actually tell myself, in my own head, well, you've been a monster your whole life because so why not? Why not? Who gives a fuck, dude? Because I don't care anyways. It was kind of like, I'm cruel, I'm sadistic, I don't care. I've accepted this. And I did have very, very classic traits, some non, but classic traits of killing animals, um, having very extreme reactions to feeling challenged by people. Um, and, even before, or I should say after, some of the animals that I had done away with, um, And I could justify anything in my own head, master at justifying anything. And I could draw you a roadmap to how I got there. But one thing I loved to do was, okay, my mom, she loved her cats and just obsessed with these creatures. And so to get reactions from my parents, I would hide the cats in places. And so, because my mom is just out her mind still to this day about these creatures. But, so I would put them somewhere, and my dad is trying to coax it out of me. And my mom is screaming and crying in the background. And my dad would go, "Hey, you need to shut up. You need to stop, because the more you're wailing in the background, she thinks it's funny." And that's a big part of it. Okay, I think it's funny. But yeah, so I mean, and then so I guess subconsciously in some ways, yeah, it's like, well, I'm just going to be bad then. Who cares? I already get punished for everything. I just more came to the acceptance of it when I was older.
And what did that look like, the acceptance of it?
Oh God. Um, that was a very long process. When I was younger, I was diagnosed with conduct disorder, ODD. And then there was one psychiatrist who, just a moron, said that for some reason they thought, oh, at 14, I could have BPD. I'm just BPD. They didn't, they were such a quack. And then another one took a look at me. I did a lot of evaluations when I was younger, and you can't even be diagnosed with ASPD till, you're 18 or older. But one of them told my parents, I think you have a child with psychopathic traits. And again, my mom took that and I remember we went home and it was evening, and she's crying and she's telling my dad, we need to pray. We need to pray right now, because that is the devil. That is the devil trying to get into our lives. And my dad's kind of more like, but I feel like we need to actually think about that. We need to think about that possibility. Like, even he saw she was crazy. And so, eventually, because I heard it all, right? You have this, you have that. And then I didn't really think much of it. And then in my 20s, young 20s, was when I started to go, you know what? I think I need to explore this a little more, because all these traits that I've had since I was a child are still coming out, are still causing a problem in my life. Not that I'm not okay with it. I know I'm the whole problem, and that's fine. But I just, I'm curious as to, like, truly curious what the fuck I am. What is wrong with me? So, yeah, and then that's when I started to dig more into finding a good psych, finding a good therapist. And, then I was diagnosed with ASPD. They put me in psychopathy factor 2, and they did evaluate me for narcissistic personality disorder, but I didn't quite necessarily fit into that. And of course, as they said, anybody with ASPD is going to have some of those, right, like narcissistic characteristics, but you don't quite fit the mold for the personality disorder. So I was strictly categorized in ASPD psychopathy. Um, but so after that, I wasn't sure what to do with it. And I wasn't sure what kind of help to get, because a lot of therapists, that is not their specialty. That is not something they can work with. And I did try to get some help. but it felt very impossible. And I was becoming more okay with just, this is who I am, take it or leave it. So why do I need help? Why do I need help? This is fun. It is what it is. I've gotten this far in life. So how about you all just mind your fucking business? So, and then after that, I was married twice and I do have 3 children. So then there was the aspect of, oh my God, I have these children and I don't want them to turn out like me, because I do. I have that. I do care for my children. And maybe it's in a different fashion than another person, but I do very much care for my kids. I don't want them to be like me. And so I had to learn to understand myself more. And as what I wrote that is on your blog, um, I had to explore this, like, okay, what do I do with trying to process empathy towards my children? And when they're hurt, when they're crying, how do I navigate not giving my own children the cold shoulder? And how do I navigate understanding how they feel, regardless of if I feel it or not, and developing a response where it became a habit to comfort my kids and to apologize to my kids if I did wrong. But it's not a natural response. We are constantly going against our natural, ways when we choose to put effort into another being, so on and so forth. So, I did that and then had, failed relationships, failed marriage. And then I came across you one day, sitting on the couch, looking things up, going, man, I've never met another person like me, like not in real life, not in the wild. I've never met another psychopath in the wild. So then I came across you in your interview years ago, and mid-20s. I'm 31, just put that out there. But came across you. I watched your whole interview probably at least 5 times. And I went, maybe there is something more to be doing. Maybe I'm not as impossible as people make me seem. Look at her. Look at her. So, then after I saw that, I started finding therapists and psychologists who had a specialty in personality disorders. And I did find people who were very specialized, very expensive, but very specialized in psychopathy, ASPD, NPD. Um, and then that's when I started to come into an actual, like, full blown acceptance that this is what I am, this is what I've always been. And so now we're going to start the foundation for how we move forward. And so that's how I really came into acceptance, like the whole thing.
I love this whole story.
Thank
I
you.
have two things I wanted to follow up with you. One of them is about your kids and your parenting. The other
Hmm.
one is about how you said as a child. So maybe it's better to start as you as a child. You said you had extreme reactions to feeling challenged.
Hmm.
Can you say
Hmm.
more?
Yeah. So I've always had this sense of paranoia that somebody is always scheming against me in some way. And so, and I was very violent as a kid, more so, than obviously in my adult years. But So for example, I had a friend who we did gymnastics together. So this was in middle school, so seventh or eighth grade. And she came over to my house and we were doing handstands on the hardwood floor. Stupid. And but she kicked forward, she fell forward, and she had kicked me. And my immediate response was bashing her skull into the floor. And to me, it was totally justified. I could not believe that people would not find that to be reasonable. And, how dare she? And she was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I just would not hear a word of it because I truly, truly believed she did that on purpose. She did not like me. And so anything anybody did like that was this automatic, how dare you do something to me that probably is purposeful. And so then I go to these extreme. Okay, well, now I'm going to practically kill you. And to be honest, to this day, I still go back into these stories in therapy and I go, I'm sorry, I can't see the forest from the fucking flowers. I truly believe she still did it on purpose. I'm not going to lie to you. So, so that was kind of my extremes. I go straight for the kill, just straight to, you're not even a human life anyway, so fuck you. I don't care. I'm going to take you out before you get me.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So you really did like smash her head into the floor or whatever?
Oh, yes. We are so lucky her family didn't press charges on us. But because I truly felt she did that on purpose. There was some underlying reason for it. She had a black eye, she had bruises on her forehead, and I just kept going. If my parents had not been there, I probably would have killed her and thought nothing of it.
About how old were you?
Oh, let's see. So probably like 12 or 13.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Now, does that feel good to you in the moment afterwards? Like, what does it feel like to you?
Um, well, I guess it's hard to describe because I kind of have an altered state during that. But I mean, even after, people have this like, oh, I can't believe she did that, and I would say I'm a little neutral to it for the most part. Like I don't think much of it. I just kind of think, okay, like if you don't see that this person was the problem and you think it's me, well, that's not my problem. That's a you problem. Um, I think it's totally justified. And then I have the other reaction of I find it funny. I would find it funny, oh, I got a reaction out of someone. They think I'm just so crazy. I would laugh. I've always had inappropriate laughing, but
I love your laughter.
thank you. But yeah, I find it funny, you're reacting in such an over the top way to a situation that to me is not really a big deal. They got what they deserve.
When you say you were in an altered state, what do you mean by that?
So, kind of in a sense, if I it was a lot more up there when I was younger. Nowadays, not so much. I'm a lot more in control, but it was just almost like this blackout rage where there really was no thinking about it during the moment. It was just, you're trying to get me, so I'm going to get you. It is what it is.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I've had like I don't remember my childhood as well, but in adulthood, like for instance, the one that I always mention because it was like such a confluence of terrible things happening at once, the gray rage against that DC Metro worker. And it really did feel like
Yeah.
it was like a fugue state. It felt like I was like a
Right.
zombie almost. I'm just
Right.
like sleepwalking a little bit, but
Hmm.
I wonder what's happening there in the
So,
brain.
do you think it's like a dissociative kind of thing?
It's like pushed to that level, I think for me it
Right.
felt really like the normally I think, have like running thoughts, and it felt like such a pause of thinking. It felt like just this sensory kind of experience, and maybe that's what makes me think of it as kind of like sleep, is because it felt like the conscious mind was almost like asleep. It's like the
Right.
conscious mind was
Right.
was out, was somewhere else.
Right.
There
Right.
was no, if we were like thinking of the Freudian terms, there was no super ego there,
Right.
like not even to be like knock on the door or something. They're
Hmm.
gone. They're on vacation for a little bit. They're not just like
Right.
in the next room.
Well, I don't know if you've been asked this, so you can tell me your experience too, but I had someone ask me, well, it's been a few times, would you consider yourself dangerous? And I said, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, like as of right now, in the last few years, I don't know. I mean, I feel that I'm more in control of myself, but I'm like, you have to think, I mean, especially when I was younger, you have somebody who with psychopathy who doesn't have this conscience telling them, hey, that's not a good idea, mixed with impulses, mixed with everything else. Yeah, that can absolutely be a very dangerous combination. But, but then there's the other side of it where I do feel now I'm more in control of myself. I wouldn't necessarily call myself dangerous. I mean, people say, "Oh, you're blind to it." Maybe. I mean, I know I can be, but I don't know. It's just I just made me think of that. I'm like, a lot of people talk about that. Well, whether we're such dangerous people or not.
I think that's a really interesting question. And I think my answer would be like slightly different, is that everybody's kind of dangerous for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has triggers, and they're just
Right.
different triggers. It's like I was watching Sheep Detectives with my girlfriend. Have you seen it yet?
I have
It's
not.
pretty good. It's a kids movie, but it's a murder mystery. People actually get murdered in this.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was like, this surprises me a little bit. But it was talking about like the kind of the ups and downs of sheep, like that
Mm.
they will shun the winter lamb, the lamb that's born in winter, and just kind of like some of
Mm.
the reckless, like dumb, kind of dangerous stuff that they do. We normally associate sheep with being so gentle and so nice,
Right.
but also stupid. And it's like, I mean, it's like people too. People who are sheep are also
Right.
doing stupid things, stupid, dangerous
Right.
things, mob mentality, things that I would never
Mm.
do, even consider do. I mean,
Right.
I've told this story like multiple times. People are probably sick of me hearing it from me. But like in criminal law, when I took it, my first year in law school, they're talking about how if you walk in on your spouse having sex with somebody else and you like kill them like bang bang, you might
Mm-hmm.
not even do time. That may just be temporary insanity. And we all
Mm-hmm.
understand it. We all understand it because we're like, well, I mean, that's what I would do too. So, but that's normal
Well,
people.
yeah.
For me, it's like my girlfriend always has the phrase, leave them alone, leave them alive.
Oh, that's funny.
And
Well, I mean,
she gets
yeah.
jealous, but I don't even get jealous. But yeah, I mean, she said there's no way that she would kill people, but like
Right.
normal people do kill people. Men kill people,
Exactly.
and the
Yeah.
statistics, I guess I just heard a statistic actually from some random Jordan Peterson movie that half of murder victims are drunk and half of murderers are drunk, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, I mean, you guys are, and by you guys, I mean not us, people, other people.
Right.
You guys are up to like such shenanigans all the time or whatever. Like especially
Right.
men are
Sure.
up to a ton of shenanigans. So like are we more dangerous or less dangerous? We're more like a
Mm-hmm.
different type of dangerous, the one that you kind of don't see.
Right.
It reminds me a little
Right.
bit. I think our dangerousness is overstated because like where
Sure.
I live, there are great white sharks, a ton of them. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
see them. I mean, you'd have to have a drone to see them because you have to kind of get the angle right or whatever into the ocean. But they're like in the surf line with the surfers, like a couple weeks ago, they closed down a local beach because they saw like a 15-foot great white. It's a nursery for
Mm,
juveniles, but and people die. I mean, like every few years or
sure.
something, every 5 to 7 years maybe. Usually swimmers, usually swimming out beyond the break, the wave break. But also kind of like how many people are in the water and never ever suspect that there's a shark with them. That's the funny thing, seeing the
Right.
drones and the surfers are always looking up being
Absolutely.
like, "What's this drone for?" And it's like if you see a
Right.
drone, there's a shark.
Exactly. Well, a couple things about that to, respond. So one of the psychologists I had seen for an evaluation, I've switched many times just due to insurance or someone has, better qualifications. But so there was one who she she said, you know, I work in the prison system, and a lot of people in the prison system get diagnosed with ASPD when they have no such thing. They committed a crime of passion. So going back to the catching your spouse cheating, and she said, I work with this guy who he got 20 to life, married 15 years, 4 kids, and comes home, finds his wife in bed with, his friend or whatever. And he picked up a hammer and he killed him. And, she said he never had a history of killing animals. He never had a history of even anxiety or depression. But because he went into the prison system for murder, they labeled him antisocial personality disorder. And I just thought, what morons? Because for something like a personality disorder, you have to have the history for it. You have to have that long history. There's a reason you cannot get diagnosed till over the age of 18. And even for me, I think it was like a 6-month evaluation on me. So, and digging up my past. So she said, being in the presence of you, like I can see so clearly that you're psychopathic and have ASPD. I talk to this man and just go, she just wants to change the initial diagnosis because that was a crime of passion. And she said, actually, more people who are not psychopathic kill people. So it's actually, and even in her words, just stupid when somebody hears psychopathy or ASPD and they automatically start referencing Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer. It's like, well, those are top tier serial killers who have multiple diagnoses. Whereas, it doesn't make sense. So just to go along with that, it's like, that was her opinion on it. I mean, even for me, I know you and I had talked about it before where I think you're a little bit more neutral, but for me, being cheated on was just a no. I mean, my God, I could never fathom it, never in a million years. And I know I was going to explore why a little bit more. Still haven't found the fucking answer, quite frankly. But because I don't care about much. I'm very neutral to a lot, but that was just, God damn it, that was the one thing that just, oh my, I couldn't even fathom it. Couldn't even imagine. And then, my ex-husband having narcissistic personality disorder with ASPD traits. Jesus Christ. I mean, he took, it wasn't just like cheating. I mean, my father died. He waited till the 1 year anniversary because he knew I'm not the type to fall down easy because I have ASPD. He's not going to be able to get into my head like that. So he really just wanted to like make it as crushing as humanly possible. And my father died and he had brutally assaulted me the night he died because he wanted that to stick. And that was such a weird thing for me because I don't know how to process those kind of emotions. So I'm sitting there going, well, I feel bothered in some ways, but I can't really cry about it. So what do I do with it? And my ex-husband, so he did that. And then on the 1 year anniversary of my father's death, where I was just trying to be alone, that's when he came out and said he cheated. And to be honest, I didn't believe him at first because, he makes things up to poke and prod. Um, and then I reached out to this person and I was able to revive a bunch of messages, deleted ones from the grave, because I did a little, stuff like that before. And I told him, I said, nothing's off limits for me. I can find things that you could never imagine. So I brought all these messages up and I went, oh my God, he's not fucking lying. And there was a lot of background of that, but just to move that along, he tried as hard as possible to poke and prod. And it did become a very dangerous situation because he pushed me so far about the cheating that, I mean, it was a nightmare. I mean, from the time we woke up to the time we went to bed, it was like a war zone about this because you also have two people with personality disorders trying to get the other one in this little game that he's created. And I had not, you know, brought that side out of me in so long. Like it just, not to the violence that it was. And then eventually, one of those days, to me, it didn't matter how high the cost. You were going to face what you did because I knew for someone like him, he can put those blinders on and just tootle about his day. I wanted him to look it in the face. And so it did. It was very dangerous. And one day when he was flying off the rails, I put a knife behind my back and I walked over there and it ended up turning into a stabbing. And I did nick the top of an artery in his arm. And this is where I tell people, okay, yes, this is where it could get a little dangerous, right? I stab him, I nick an artery, blood is just pouring. I mean, the whole bathroom is just a freaking murder scene. And I was looking at, see, most people, right, even if they acted out of impulse, they would go, oh my God, I didn't mean to, or, something. I stood over him and I looked at him and I said, are we good now? And I was so aroused. I was aroused, like sexually aroused by the sight of this man just suffering on my bathroom floor for what he did. I mean, and I should have just given him an at-home vasectomy at that point. He was already dying. Who gives a shit? And I was like, well, if he does survive, he can't create more fucking kids. So, but it just, I was so aroused by that. I mean, it was just delicious, really. So that's kind of where I tell people, well, that's where it kind of crosses the line, right? I saw nothing to be upset about. I was so aroused by the sight of his blood just pouring out. And if it hadn't been for my best friend, that's what really saved his life. I mean, she came over, she said, "Oh my God, you're not going to prison over this." And she made kind of like a tourniquet. We did call the police. And the reason that I was never charged was because he had a history. See, I'm smart though. I knew he had a history with the police. I knew what I could do with that situation. And so he kept his mouth shut because at that point he was afraid of me. So he kept his mouth shut. And, you know, it ended up being seen as kind of just this like self defense act. And so I was never charged, but, for me, yeah, I guess that's where it could get dangerous, so like with the cheating stuff, oh God, no, 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 not for me. So that just kind of made me think of that though, where that was my situation, but like that guy, and I have psychopathy, but that guy, he killed out of a crime of passion. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there's some difference there, but it just, and as far as, psychopaths, like we hide in plain sight. People talk about that. Like how you were talking about the sharks, like you'd never know one was beneath you. I've come to discover just how fucking stupid people actually are to that kind of stuff. Because on my debit card, right, for example, it's I customized it. It says psychopath with a rope on it. And I'll hand it to a cashier and, the cashier, she'll go, "Oh, he, psychopath. How funny." And even if I look at people dead in their face and say, "Oh, yeah, it's actually true," they'll go, "Oh, you're so funny. You're just so funny." I'm like, are you really that stupid? And like, I realize this is why people get caught up with people like me because they truly, 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 it's like they almost have to see the best in humanity. And they truly do not think for more than 2 seconds, oh, this could be true. The amount of people that I've looked in the face and said, "No, I really am. And I would take your life." They just are totally like, "Oh, haha, what a funny joke." So talk about hiding in plain sight. I mean, people would never in a million years suspect it. And even when I watch the more average people in society watching things about psychopaths or whatever, it's just like, y'all, each and every one of y'all would be, I mean, just the perfect victim. Y'all are just so fucking oblivious, dude. Like, I don't know, just the amount of stupidity of society when it comes to putting on these blinders. It's incredible to me.
That's a really interesting, good point because I think a lot of people think, oh, it's psychopaths are hiding. That's why, but you're not hiding. They're like
Right.
intentionally not seeing it. And so it begs the question, is it
Right.
really because the psychopaths are hiding? Like, are we putting that much
Right.
energy into the hiding or maybe not?
Right. It's kind of like, no, we're just kind of living our lives and you're oblivious.
I mean, and they're obviously getting something out of being oblivious, whether
Right.
it's like seeing everybody be a mirror of their own internal world, like not having to reflect on the fact that people are so different or wanting to kind of lie to themselves about the nature of reality and other
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right. Well, so have you had, kind of like for me talking about the cheating thing and those, where I did, snap to that degree. Do you have anything kind of maybe how that would be for me where you just like you just could not even fathom it, or are you pretty neutral on those types of
Yeah,
things?
my aggravating factors are somebody's trying to shame me,
Mm,
like morally or something.
mm-hmm.
The person who's trying to do the thing or whatever, they're trying to assert authority over me. They don't actually have authority over me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like a substitute teacher, even substitute teachers I'm usually nice to or something, but something weird
Right.
like that, where they're like a mall cop or something trying to they're like the like this is why I say the DC Metro worker is so crazy because he's doing all these little aggravating factors. He's just a janitor in the DC Metro
Right.
and he's trying to shame me about some sort of stuff. So those sorts of things. And anytime where I feel like my personhood is being disregarded. That's like the other
Mm,
one. Actually, with the DC Metro worker, it's not like he disregarded my personhood really in any sort
right.
of meaning way. And it's so interesting because I just saw somebody comment today like saying that my diagnosis should be loser because I'm a loser instead. And did that bother me? No.
No.
No, but it's kind of weird. It's like weirdly unpredictable. Like, what will be
Right.
the thing that sets me off in terms of how I feel like my personhood's disregarded? I think for
Right.
me, it kind of goes back to this, like my primary trigger probably is, a little bit neglect here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but like yeah, narcissistic dad who's kind of like cannot stand the thought of people having like their own independent will, that's not just like an
Mm-hmm.
extension of himself. Independent
Right.
will, independent feelings, any of those sorts of things. So I think it's like that's why it matters to me so much because it's not just triggering that moment what's happening, it's triggering like
Mm,
10,000 different memories too of feeling
sure.
disempowered, of feeling out of control, like my world's unpredictable, like I'm not safe. And
Sure.
that to me I think is just like a hyper fight or flight reaction in me
Mm-hmm.
where it's never flight.
Yeah, same.
And so I'm like, I'm just the
Right.
same as you guys. I also get
Right.
triggered. I have this fight or flight, except it's not flight and it's not what is the
Right.
fawn? It's not
Yep.
fawn. It can be
Yeah.
fawn for like maybe a minute or two while my brain checks out.
Right.
But then it's going to be fight. And then
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I'm a danger to myself, in those situations because I don't want to
Right.
be strangling some DC Metro worker. I would rather not react at all,
Right.
to those things. I'd rather his whatever his comment, who knows why. And some of it too is I think, in this particular situation, now I'm remembering, it's because I was like traveling, not sleeping, had
Mm,
come from like some stressful day, new situation. And I thought I already was doing the right thing. When I already feel like I am kind of
mm-hmm.
making all the efforts I can mask, to be pro-social, to kind of do all the
Mm-hmm.
things that I think are expected of me. Like, I don't even think I should have to do those things. But if I'm already doing those things
Right.
and you come and say, that it's not enough or I haven't done it
Right.
or whatever, then I'm
Right.
gonna flip out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I that's understandable. And I think we all, I mean, it's like even my therapist said, okay, so you don't have, that's why I couldn't do strict trauma therapy because I don't have the flight or fawn response. I just have this like fight response. He's like, well, I don't think we can do much with that because because there's like a timeline for more, average people or people without, this diagnosis where we can look at that timeline of trauma and break down those responses, but you don't have them. You don't have them. They're not there.
Yeah.
So,
And it's weird kind of thinking that there's like a moral judgment, I think, a little bit to that, where I'm thinking it's the lizard brain. Like the prefrontal cortex has nothing to do with it. There's no
Right.
amygdala, I don't think, doing shit about shit in these situations. It really is
Right.
the most primitive responses, in the same way that when like a dog attacks like a baby or something, they're like, that's just his
Mm-hmm.
instinct or whatever, like, and
Right.
that's just animals, like it's
Sure.
tearing the baby's face off or whatever, and it's like, that there's no morality to this. But when
Right.
humans experience the same thing for the same reasons, or like
Right.
the chimpanzees, right, are closest to us in DNA. Chimpanzees tear people's face off. They made that movie about it.
Right.
Nope, right? The
Right.
Jordan Peele movie.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
have
it's
a vivid
interesting.
memory of seeing somebody on
Yeah.
TV who that happened to, and she was on some talk show, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I must have been like 12 or something.
Right. Oh yeah, no, I remember that. And it's interesting you bring that up because my daughter so she was attacked by a dog when she was 4 and she had to have facial reconstruction and um so anyways, I won't get into like the whole story, but basic, she got attacked and I see a lot of people, and this is a pet peeve of mine. I mean, I have a lot of pet peeves. I have a lot of, things in my head of what devalues a human life even more for me. But one of my pet peeves, I see people where like their child gets attacked by an animal or people put themselves in these situations to be attacked by an animal. And you know, especially when someone's kid gets attacked, they just, oh, but don't do anything to the dog. It just doesn't know better. And I'm like, but y'all claim animals are so goddamn smart. And when my daughter was attacked, I could not get to my gun. I had my hands and I reached under because I knew the dog was not going to let go. It was a Belgian, what are those called? Malinois. And, or, however you pronounce that. And so I reached under and I cut off its airway. And
Mm.
that's what it, eventually let go. And I just slammed its head into the wall until it would not fucking move. And I also took its puppies and did away with that shit too, because I'm sorry, this is my child. This is my child. How dare you, bitch? And before you go, you're going to see your own kids die too. So, and like, I don't know, that just made me think of that because of the animal thing. But even, people they I feel like people put themselves in those situations with animals where like, oh, well, I just want to kiss the tiger on the nose. I
Mm.
just really want him to feel me out. I'm like, well, you know what? Then when you get attacked or you get killed, then I don't understand why we hold funerals for people like you. I mean, that was your goddamn choice. Why should anyone even shed a damn tear? Jesus.
Mm. Yeah.
Like the chimpanzee and that
Those,
woman. Oh,
yeah.
well,
I
I
mean,
don't know
you
what
have
to
a
tell you.
chimpanzee in your house or whatever, like that this is the thing.
Yeah. No, seriously. I don't get it. I don't get it. I would never think to myself, wow, I really just want to love on this chimpanzee. Like, and I just feel like that's common sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was this person, she was kind of like a influencer, and she was like missing her upper lip because of
Oh,
a pit bull. And every
yeah.
post she would make, just any post, they were like, you must have done something to this pit bull to provoke it.
Oh,
Like she could not live her life. It had nothing to do. The post was about like, vacation in Hawaii or something. And you're like,
right.
you deserved what the pit bull did to you. Like
Right.
this
Oh, yeah,
weird.
yeah.
weird kind of like I don't know about animals. I'm not like an animal person, but I it's weird
Right.
the impulse to make it a moral thing or to try to come up with like,
Yes. Right.
everything happens for a reason or you must have done this.
Right.
Like there's
Right.
like this real push to eliminate the idea of uncertainty and lack of
Mm-hmm.
predictability in the world and other people. So the idea that somebody's
Yes.
dangerous when the world is dangerous. I mean, the
Right.
world is nuts. Like we have microplastics like
Right.
clogging our
Right.
arteries and stuff. Like
Right.
it's like 5 million people a year die from air pollution.
Mm-hmm.
Just all these
Right.
kind of like little unknown dangers that people are ignorant to. And then when there's a shark attack, though, then everybody's scared to get in the water.
No, honestly, that is, yeah. I think about that actually quite frankly, like quite frequently, because I just, I'm telling you, I have so many pet peeves because it just, society is so stupid. I mean, just denser than fucking concrete, dude. Like, I just don't get it. And I don't know if that's because, I think about that too. Like, is it because Is it because I think like the only way I can think about things is in this puzzle logical sense and I don't have the ability to have this emotion cloud something, or is it, or then the other side comes out, or is it because I'm just superior to the rest of the world? But I think about that a lot. Like, are people just that stupid? Am I superior? Or is it because I strictly think in like a very logical solve the puzzle sense?
Do you mean like, are you missing out on something that everybody else is picking up on that's real, or are they picking up on stuff that's just stupid? Like they're just making it up and you just are
Like,
not clouded by the same
kind of like in
ignorance.
this, yeah, kind of like in the sense of like just how we were talking about the animals, and people are like, oh, there's a shark attack, and then everybody freaks out. See, I just don't understand that. Like, to me, it's just stupidity. I just don't get it. Like, so I think about that and go, do they just have, are those people just actually that stupid, or is it because I lack emotion? I'm not sure. Like, if everyone else is just stupid, or if it's because I only think logically puzzle solving about everything. So, you know, I just don't put emotion behind it. So to me, it's common sense versus, you know, the people who go, oh, shark attack.
Yeah, sometimes I think I saw this video, maybe somebody posted it to the Discord where somebody buys like cranberry juice, right? So it's a
Mhm.
plastic bottle of cranberry juice. They slip their credit card or debit card into the label. So underneath the label, they scan the cranberry juice, it's a Safeway
Mm.
must be
Right.
California grocery store, right? So they're scanning the juice, and the cashier's like, "How do you like to pay for this?" And he's like, "I guess I'll use Juice Pay." And she's like, "What?" So he grabs the juice from off
Hmm.
the little counter, and then he scans his touchless credit card, and then it's paid for, right? And the lady is like,
Oh God.
like, and
Oh.
then she's like, hold it, how did you pay for this? And he's like, it's juice pay, it's like a new thing. And she's like, that doesn't make sense. And then in her mind, she thought he paid somehow by scanning the what do we call it? Barcode
Oh
of
my
the
God.
label or something. So then she calls her manager. The manager comes over, says, we're gonna have to like do this over again. I'm like, is no one looking at the receipt to see that somebody has paid for this?
Oh
Right?
my God.
And the reason somebody posted this is, like why does the cashier care so much? Just let him
Right.
go or whatever.
Right.
But I think it's more interesting though, this idea that I think that normal people adapt to such a narrow set of circumstances and they
Mm,
rely so much on like context clues
mm-hmm.
and their kind of like understanding of reality or what is kind of predictable. And it's kind of sad too because I
Mm,
see people getting scammed this way.
right.
Here's this funny, stupid story. So my friend who's older, he's like, "Hey, can you drive me? I bought this car like in Orange County. You know, it's like an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna drive, you're gonna drive me up there. I'm gonna drive the car back home. You know, okay, fine.
Right.
I don't love this. Already I don't love this, but fine or
Right.
whatever. So we go up, we show up and she's like, and all we need is the cashier's check. And he's like, but I already sent you a photo of the cashier's check. And she's like, you didn't bring it? And he's like, no. And she's like, sir, we need that cashier's check. And I was like, you sent a photo.
Oh my God.
Like, but he has like this understanding that his bank will accept a photo to deposit a check.
Mm, right.
And he just kind of like doesn't understand the underlying mechanics of it. I kind of don't even
Mm-hmm.
understand. Like, it's like I didn't understand that we breathe our own pee-pee in the womb.
Right.
That's what makes our lungs. And that's the connection between kidney and lung development in fetuses.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
understand that either, but I'm willing to understand. Like I'm willing to look and
Right.
understand that there might be something there I don't know, and ask
Mm-hmm.
questions and
Mm-hmm.
take a step back and be like, okay,
Right.
this thing that I didn't predict has happened. Let's kind of think
Mm-hmm.
why, and
Right.
I just think was reading off of Twitter too. Uh, Somebody was talking about Russian peasantry and how they were so
Mm.
different from other peasantry in a way that made autocracy so much more likely in Russia
Mm-hmm.
because they lived in such extreme environments and they kind of
Mm.
like in the 19th century Russian peasantry, they basically said these peasants learned to live in such extreme environments but in this way in which you thought of like the Greeks and their gods or whatever. Like, why did your crop fail? The gods are kind of pissed. Like, there's nothing
Right.
you can do because you're just subject to the whims of the environment so badly. But that they had
Right.
kind of just learned to like give the middle finger, to things and to be really resilient in spite of it all. Like, okay, so what if the gods hate me this year? Maybe they'll like me again next year. Kind of like this very like, okay, that
Mm-hmm.
didn't work out, but maybe something will work out in the future, but not in this like I'm gonna learn from it because it was so unpredictable. It's almost like they couldn't learn
Right.
from it because there was no discernible pattern. But then after you
Right.
got people raised that way to kind of just all they know is to be resilient and kind of like say fuck
Mm-hmm.
it to things,
Right.
put them in a city and suddenly it was like chaos. Like they had
Right.
no kind of sense of like civilization almost like they were like
Right.
brutish, and I
Sure.
think though that it's not just the Russian peasantry, it's normal people are this way.
Yeah.
They are
Right.
so kind of adapted to like this narrow set of circumstances, kind of like we were talking about the air versus the
Mm-hmm.
water, and
Right.
they have very little flexibility. It feels like mental flexibility, emotional
Mm-hmm.
flexibility, psychological
Right.
flexibility to kind of even entertain something new. Uh, this is why they're getting scammed all the time, is because they're
Right.
getting these text messages being like, you have a package, like you've been on a toll
Right.
road,
Right.
and now the IRS is coming after you, and all we need is $5,000 in Home Depot gift cards. And
Ay,
then
ay,
then
ay.
the
Yeah.
IRS is good with you. Have you been to these
Right.
stores where they're like, even when I send money sometimes to people, it's like, check all these things. Has somebody asked you for this money?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the
Right.
IRS? They're trying to help you. One time,
Right.
my girlfriend's man, I think it was her great great uncle and aunt. This happened to like $15,000 worth, And they were
Mm.
so like freaked out, and they went to like a department store in the United States, Kohl's or whatever, and they were like, we need $500 in gift cards. And the Kohl's guy was like, I'm not selling you these gift cards. I know what this is or
Right.
whatever. And they're like, well, this just like has fucked us up even more because now we're gonna have to drive 20 minutes to the other
Mm-hmm.
Kohl's to get the gift
Right.
cards. Now we're gonna be late to our lunch with every other
Sure.
90-year-old that we're having lunch with. But it's like
Right.
the systems, it's so hard for them to like be outside of those systems. They're like a
Mm-hmm.
snail
Mm-hmm.
outside of its shell. It's like
Right.
they really kind of have like that's how they feel though. It's not really, it's
Mm-hmm.
freedom, but they don't see it as freedom. It's like these
Right.
dogs
Right.
that you can leave the door open all day long. You could leave the door open for a full eight
Mm-hmm.
hours and they'd still be in the house being like, "Hey, you came
Right.
home."
Right.
That's how they are. Dogs
Yeah.
that would never
Yeah.
run away. That's what
Yeah.
I think
No,
about
that's
the stupidity,
yeah.
or like, are they morons? I
Mm-hmm.
think they're just really creatures of habit to the nth
Mm.
degree.
Well, yeah, you're definitely more evolved than I am on that one because
You
oh,
might
it
be
just
right. I
pisses.
may be wrong.
My God, it just makes me so mad. Well, and so I know we haven't talked in a little bit, but so interesting thing, this new psych that I wanted to see, she told me, have you ever tested your IQ? Because I mean, I told her, I said, some of my worst behaviors have definitely taken their spin for the last year. It seems like it's ramped up, and she said, "Have you ever tested your IQ?" And I said, "No, I'm fucking stupid." And she's like, "Ah, I think you're a little bit too smart." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't know what this has to do with anything, but go on." And so I did this IQ test, and she did say, there's like this weird connection between psychopathy and high IQs. And it came back as 130. And she said, yeah, so all that chronic boredom, which, for people who are going to listen, I mean, the boredom that people like us can experience, it's not a I have nothing to do. It's not a regular type of boredom. It is this just unfillable space. Like I was not able to have this like anything of satisfaction or accomplishment. I mean, they saw that in me when I was younger too, which led to self-harm. And I became very almost like addicted to it for some sort of dopamine. But I could go out to Disneyland with friends all day long, get home, feel like I did nothing, just nothing. Just it's so empty. And so it's very shallow, very hollow. And so, I've always had this level of boredom that's just unfathomable. Just there's nothing that could fill it. And I tell people, well, and that's, why sometimes, yeah, it's like people like me, right? I keep looking for the next thing. And that's where a lot of a problem is because, and commitment issues, because I have to constantly be looking for something to do, something to stimulate my mind. And I had one person say, oh, so like, like how autistic people need stimulation. I said, no, 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 far from it. So anyways, I found out my IQ and she said, "Oh, honey, you're like bored. You are bored." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, what do you do every day? What's your routines?" And so I told her, I said, "Well, after divorcing, my second husband and um just kind of being alone for a period of time too, where like my kids weren't here and I was going through cervical cancer. And even now, I still have chronic pain. I go to pain management, but I said, Well, I mean, I love riding motorcycles. I love riding mini bikes. I crochet, I read, but I mean, I've gone through 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzles in a week. I've read, probably over 30 books in the last 6 months. I can't fill anything. I just keep blowing through everything. I don't know what to do. And she said, well, that's probably where some of this is coming from. She said, well, you're very smart. I mean, so, because I told her, I said, well, I think I'm stupid. Like, I drowned the cat in the toilet. Like, what, I don't, like, I don't find that very smart. So she said, well, you have to think of it more like you're a puzzle solver. You're constantly looking to solve things. You're constantly looking for something to stimulate your mind on a problem solving level, or like like the jigsaw puzzles, but you blow through those. So um and she said, I want you to like quadruple what you're doing. I want you to, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, I want you to just do everything you possibly can all day long. And I said, oh, well, that's going to be tiring in the 110 degrees in the desert, but I'm going to do it. So I started getting all these little, like the trinkets, like more kinds of puzzles to solve, go into escape rooms, going axe throwing, like just all this stuff that I incorporated, going for longer walks at the park or a little bit of a jog. And now some of my behaviors, yeah, are a little more tame. I can sleep a little bit better. So in some ways it was like finding out that I had a higher IQ and discovering that I really needed this level of stimulation to the point where I am drop dead worn out was a huge one for me. And she said, well, but I think that's also too, like with your type of mind, why you look at people,
Mm.
right? And you kind of have this, isn't this supposed to be common sense? Like, what a fucking screwball. What a little moron. Because, you're constantly in your head problem solving. Whereas, like, and it's simple to you. Whereas the average person, they're not doing that. They don't have, like, they don't have your mind. So, like, she kind of talked to me a lot about the fact that, it's like you have a different mind. And that comes across as stupid when it comes to other people, but you're actually very smart. And I was like, oh, don't stroke my ego. Don't do that. It's going to get to my head. But no, but it is true, in some levels, like I have this higher IQ, and I never even considered that that would be kind of part of the reason that, my behaviors took such a toll for a while, and why I probably look at other people and go, well, why aren't you doing this? Or why aren't you doing that? You're just stupid.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And for how long have you been doing this?
Oh, it's been about a month now. Yeah.
And do you feel like more tired? Do you feel like you're getting burnt out on the activity, or do you feel like actually rejuvenated?
So I think that it's both. I mean, when I first started, it was, it was a little more rough, but I think it's both, because there is this like burnout, but then I go to bed and like I wake up and I feel more satisfied. I'm
Mm.
starting to have that, kind of, okay, I'm satisfied with this, and I'm keeping myself so busy that I don't have time to walk around being a dick shit to people.
Yeah.
And so, because even last year, like there was this there was this person who I was going through kind of one of my urges to find somebody to get caught in my web, so to speak. And so I found just kind of like, the perfect person for this. And I mean, even my best friend, like she's known me for a long time. And even her jaw hit the floor when she saw what I was doing to this person. But, I met them on a website, or like, I don't know. I don't remember if it was Tinder, Facebook dating, whatever. And so, I went out of my way. I mean, from beginning to end, we talked for a few weeks before meeting, and I laid my groundwork. And I have a tendency to make people feel very special. I mean, yeah, I can't, of course I'm charming, but I have a way, and my best friend talks to me about this sometimes because she's like, hey, my little pocket path, just so you know, you make people feel more special than they actually are to you. I'm like, yeah, my bad. She goes, no, even I've experienced it with you, like sometimes she's like, you're just my friend. And you have made me feel so much more different than other people that when you do your little retracting, your little turtling that you do sometimes, it makes me feel like my mind starts to go, well, what other friend does she have? Like, who's she talking to? Like, you have this way of really digging into people. I'm like, huh, okay. But either way, like that's just a little side note. But so that's where I kind of laid that groundwork for this person, was making them feel not just naturally special, but like over the top, and making them feel like they've known me for 20 years. And I can be very easy to talk to. So,
You're
but
very
I
easy to
told them,
talk to. I think that's like
oh, thank you.
a super gift of yours,
Oh,
even
thank
more than most
you.
psychopaths.
Oh, thanks. So, yeah, I still don't even know what it is, because I didn't even really recognize it with myself for a long time. But so with this person, I made him feel special. And then I did tell this person up front, hey, I have antisocial personality disorder. And I did throw it out there. And in a way, I threw it out there because, so like a lot of people see, this is something that bothers me. A lot of people say, kind of like how a narcissist will never admit they're a narcissist. I don't think that's true, because I've seen a lot of people admit it, or like myself, I'll admit it to you that I have antisocial personality disorder, because you're going to be more trusting of me. You're going to look at that and go, she's an honest person. You know, wow, she's so self-aware. That's noble to people, right? So that's what I did. And so also too, because at that point, anything that I do can be justified by the fact that you knew what you were getting yourself into. And so, progressing forward, um, I really, I mean, I tore this person left from right. I mean, just like, we went for a little date at the park, had a nice time, did some extracurriculars, and then um after that kept talking. But then I started to kind of, I had my retractions, like, I'm not going to talk to you for a little bit, and then when I feel like talking to you, that's when we're going to talk, because it really gets into people's heads where, like, you have to be on my schedule. I'm not going to be on your schedule. So that way it also leaves you wondering, well, what is she doing? Or I really want to talk to her, but I'm not sure if I should reach out. Like, I'm going to make you question that. And it's very subtle. People don't think about it. So I kind of started that. And then this person over this next like month, I had this person so obsessed with me. Just, I mean, head over heels would die for me. And my best friend, she said, "Well, I really like this person." I said, "Don't get moral about it. Don't get moral. I don't care." And she's like, "I know you don't care, but I'm just saying, I like this person. Like, why can't you just mellow out?" And I said, "Because this is my web and I am Charlotte. So leave it alone." She said, "Okay, I love you." Just, she's very go with the flow with my own bullshit. I love her for it. But so she invited him over one night, and I went, "Why you got to do that? Like, why you got to get close? This is not one of these situations. Thank you very much." And she said, "Well, I just feel like, I don't know, we want to get to know this person." I said, "Well, why do you want to get to know someone I'm fucking around with?" Anyways, so, she said, "Well, maybe there's potential there." Whatever. So, you know, she invited him over one night because he also had a conversation with her prior and said, "Hey, I know, um, you know, that she, meaning me, has ASPD. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be frank. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to, I feel like I'm running into a wall with her at every turn and corner." And my best friend said, "You know, water off a duck's back. Best thing I could tell you." And she said, "Look, when it comes to my little pocket path, you just kind of gotta take it with a grain of salt, kind of go with the flow. Don't try to push her." And my best friend told this person, and I think that this is so funny. So she describes me as many things, but she said she's kind of like a crock pot where you just gotta, you put in the ingredients, right? So everything's there, but now the lid's on it. You gotta let her marinate on things. And you cannot invade her space, right? Like if you lift up the lid because you want to take a little peek, little peeky do at her, um, it's going to reverse the time a little bit. You can't just take the lid off. You got to let it marinate. And then she's going on to tell him she's also like a trash panda. Okay, she's a little trash panda. She has her own garbage can, and all of her garbage is in it, but it's her garbage can. So she organizes it the way she needs to, and she's digging through her own trash. And then you come along and you want to open the lid and you see this cute trash panda and you want to help it because you think that it shouldn't be in the garbage can. You just want to give it a hand. Don't do that because then she's going to snip at you, right? Where she backs you into those corners. That is you reaching out your hand to the trash panda, but it doesn't want your help. It doesn't want your help, and you're evading its space. So it's going to bite you. So she's just describing me as all these things. And this person said, "Okay, I'm going to try to keep this in mind." And
All
this
of
person
this.
had, yeah, this person had no idea just the absolute malicious intent I had. But, so we spent a night together and I was very resistant. But then, we ended up again doing these extracurriculars because I didn't like this person. I wasn't attracted to them. I didn't feel anything for them, but I did it anyways because, again, it was part of my web and it was part of this seeking, seeking something like a game to play. I wanted to play this game because it was entertaining. And I wouldn't even say so much because some people say, well, you just want attention. I wouldn't say attention because it's not like I'm going out into crowds and looking for this attention. I wanted this person to be to like bend to my will. I wanted to do this with this person. And so after that night, this person was even more hooked on me because I also, conversation for another time, but I have a way of like going about my sexual intimacy where it's very addicting to people and I make it addicting for a reason, right? And I don't have a passionate sense in me. It's my psychologist is working with me on this because it can be dangerous, but like I like to open people up to new realms of things, but I can't feel arousal from passion. I can only feel it from violence. And so anyways, but so I'm basically in the process of trying to like Stockholm this dude. Like, and so after that, there was a night where he was supposed to be going out with some friends and I just got this little urge inside of me again. It's like the feeling of a drop on a roller coaster and I get real it's almost like euphoric. And I'm like, I'm going to mess with him tonight. Like tonight's the night. And so I texted him and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just see somebody else. And, this person's like, wait, what? Like, why would you do that? What did I do to you? And I said, oh, nothing. And I'm literally just sitting on the couch. I'm sitting on the couch. I have no plans, but I'm telling this person I have plans because I like jealousy. I think jealousy is a fun emotion to mess with. I think that it gets me what I want with people. Yeah, I love messing. Like that is my top emotion to mess with when it comes to people. Because right, it makes them start begging. They start like, "Oh my God, please don't." I'm like, "Oh, grovel at my feet." So, I mean, it's just delicious. So, I'm telling him that I'm seeing somebody else. I'm sitting on my fucking couch, literally sitting on my couch. This guy calls me, does not go into the movie with his friends, crying. I mean, snot and crying on the phone. And he was so emotional on the phone. I said, "Oh God, I can't deal with this." And I hung up. I said, "I'm not talking to you. You're too emotional for me." And he said, "You're making me emotional." And I said, "No, I'm not. I am not doing anything." And he said, I mean, just royal gaslighting, right? And so, he's like, "You're doing this to me. You made me feel this way." And I said, "Well, technically, I can't make you feel anything, my dear." And so he left me 25 voicemails. And I kept those voicemails and I shit you not, it was like one I think it was my best friend. I want to say one of my friends, but I think it was her. She said, "Oh, so like a serial killer, right? They go back to the body for a few days. You're keeping trophies. You're keeping trophies." I said, "Well, I mean, I guess you could put it like that." She said, "You are so sadistic." I was like, "Well, whatever. I mean, it makes me happy. So, like, who cares?" Like, every now and again, just pick up the voicemail, listen to it, get a little happy go lucky and move about my day. But this guy, I mean, just damn destroyed. And so then after, even after that, it was just like, He, after that whole night, um, I decided to finally call him back in the morning, and he didn't answer. And then he said, "Well, I was in the shower, like I had a long night from all of your stuff." And I said, "Oh, well, but I just think that it's rather rude of you to call me 25 times and then not answer when I decide I'm going to call you. How rude of you. That's just rude." And so, and then after I tried to play my whole like, "Oh, well, I'm done with you. This was all some bullshit. Goodbye." But then I try to be like, "Oh, maybe you could be my friend. Maybe you could just be a little someone to chat with." And then he made himself extra busy, and like, anyways, we talked later on, and he was just so, you know, he was like out his mind about it still. I feel like I hurt him to a degree where just there was no recovering from that shit. But, so that's kind of, I told that story because that's kind of that urge, right? Before I found these things to cope with these euphoric urges I have to poke and prod and play Charlotte's Web, you know, that's the kind of stuff that I do. And I will do it to very high degrees, and I'm very good at it. So, because to me, I like people to beg. I like people to, it's like they're at my mercy for everything. And so before I found these ways to wear myself out to the point that I'm too exhausted to do it, these are the things that I do, right? It's like I get these urges, I feel like I can't control it, and then it happens. And I could have a new one. Well, it depends. Sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's a week, but now that I've found these things where I'm making myself so busy that I'm too tired to do it. I'm too tired to go out and be, you know, get people caught in the web. But the urge, yeah, of course it's still there. And with that guy, something like when we did talk much later on, and he just, he said something really, it just kind of got to me. Not like in a, oh, I'm upset about this, but it was irritating. And I wanted to put this out there because I feel like you would really appreciate and understand this. So my best friend, because this guy was like, "Well, you take no accountability. You take no responsibility." And I said, "Motherfucker, I have literally told you to your face it was all me and it was all my plan from the beginning. Like, I did it, and I don't care about telling you either." So I have taken accountability, not to mention I've talked about it in therapy. I've understood down to the last detail of why I did it, how I managed it. So to me, that's very much accountability. And my best friend comes out, and I talk about this so often now with people. Accountability and responsibility versus wanting that person to have empathy and remorse, because and it's just like it could not get through his skull. Maybe it's because he was so hurt, but just like there is a huge difference between me taking accountability and responsibility versus remorse and empathy. Because if you're looking for remorse and empathy, you're not going to get it from me. But don't tell me I didn't take accountability when, yes, the fuck I did. Yes, the fuck I did. And how dare you? And I start to notice that, like, when people are hurt by someone, with psychopathy, NPD, whatever, They're always looking for the remorse and empathy. They cannot differentiate remorse and empathy versus accountability and responsibility. And it's such an irritating thing for me because I'm like, no, I did. You just want something that I'm not capable of, so therefore it's not good enough for you. And I think that that's just stupid. But it's true. It's very profound and very true.
You know, it reminds me, I've like told this story before. My dad, I was little, I was like 9 or something, watching some, it's like in the 80s. So the people starving in Ethiopia, I think, having a famine, and some video of some African kid with a fly in his eye. I'm laughing at him
Hmm.
because I'm like, why isn't he get the fly out of his eye? You know, I'm just like a
Right.
kid, and my dad was like, have you no empathy? And I was like, I guess not. I mean, I didn't know what the word meant. I was like, what does empathy mean? Then he described it, and I said, then no, I don't have it. I didn't realize that
No.
was such a like hot button topic, but it is crazy. People
Right.
react to it like, oh my gosh.
Right. Right.
You know, I have a couple follow-up things about things that you said. One of them about the boredom. Um,
Hmm.
one of my cousins went to medical school at the same time I went to law school. So we just kind of like chit-chatted when we chatted. Then I tell her cool cases, she tell me cool cases.
Sure.
And she told me about this study that they did about hunger with rats, where they weren't sure what satiates hunger? Is it the
Mm.
blood sugar, like in your bloodstream? Is it the sensation of being full in the stomach? Or is it kind of like the amount of food that you're used to eating? You're just kind of like,
Mm.
yeah, I know how much food is going through my mouth, my throat, or whatever. Or something
Hmm.
else. So they took a bunch of rats and they detached the esophagus from the stomach, and they had the esophagus instead go to like this little bag. So none of the food that the rats are eating is like actually getting processed in the stomach, becoming like fuel for them. And
Hmm.
the rats first eat the same amount as they normally do, which suggests, you know, they just have a set amount. You know, it's not even the sensation of the
Right.
stomach. Then the rats start to eat a little bit more, you know, as like the kind of days go on. Then at the end, they were
Hmm.
just like eating, 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 you know, just
Right.
constantly in this like starvation mode of eating.
Mm.
And first of all, after this, I asked my friend, I was like, how'd they reattach the esophagus to the stomach? And she was like, they didn't. So, so when we think about animal cruelty, let's remember that doctors and scientists are
Right.
doing this without reattaching the esophagus to
Right.
the stomach. But when I think about psychopath boredom, I think a little bit about this rat study is that it can feel that way too. It can feel that way
Hmm.
like the esophagus is attached to some plastic bag that's going to just nowhere, you know, and that there's just
Hmm.
like you're so hungry, and there's it's I think it's kind of too what people say about drowning is that you will try to breathe the water eventually. You know, like
Right.
you have that natural instinct that you can't even overpower that instinct. You will take a breath
Hmm.
even if it's water. And it's
Right.
because there's nothing, you need something so badly, and there's nothing that is able to satisfy it. So
Mm.
you just compulsively try to satisfy it in whatever way that you can. And again, like this very
Right.
lizard brain way.
I think that is an incredible example of that because I wish I could, give people a glimpse as to how it feels because it is so different than just, okay, I'm bored. So it's very hard to explain. So it's just I think that that's actually a really profound way to explain it to people. I'm gonna write that down. But yeah, no, it really is like that. It just, I mean, God, there's so many people who, like I tell people, do you think that we don't suffer in some way? I mean, no, truly, because there's so many people who look at us and go, okay, well, all you do is make people suffer. You're such a nuisance to society and the way you treat people. It's like, like as if we're just these chronic abusers, we're just these, horrible people. And I look at them and I go, do you think we don't suffer in some way? Like, because I don't understand this mindset you have towards us because we suffer greatly from these things a lot of times, like, I mean, in a lot of ways, shapes and forms, yeah, we do suffer. And kind of like, so I had met someone, once who they said, well, I was in a relationship with a very narcissistic person who abused me. So I need you to be patient and I need you to understand that. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little offended because to me, I'm like, have you never thought about where this came from? Because it didn't come from fucking nowhere, bitch. It came from this abusive, disgusting fucking childhood. So, when people act as though I'm just this person who sits in a high life, like on a throne where, oh, well, you don't have to feel anything. So your life is just so good. You get to abuse whoever you want. You get to do whatever you want. I'm like, you have just the most skewed idea of psychopathy. You have a very skewed idea of, you know, personality disorders because my whole childhood I was suffering. Like it just, why don't people look at where this came from? And, they always think, well, I was abused by, you know, this narcissist or this psychopath. And I go, so you guys don't have to suffer. You're just the ones making us suffer. I said, that is not true. That is not true by any stretch of the fucking imagination, dude.
Yeah. I love that. I used to have a pinned tweet that said, whether or not psychopaths are responsible for their actions, that's kind of a separate question, but they're certainly not
Mm,
responsible for being psychopaths. Like that's not a choice anybody has ever made is to be a
right,
psychopath.
right. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's like a hot topic, right? Is just that those back and forth, debates I see all the time about people who are, have narcissistic personality disorder, people who are psychopaths. It's like if they are truly responsible, whether people should feel sorry for them, it's like, and I think to myself, I don't need you to feel sorry for me, but I would like people to have an understanding at bare minimum. You know, use your brain a little bit, critical thinking. I know it's hard, but and I will say I do truly believe, and I've talked to some mutuals about this. I have very just absolute rage inside me at the way social media has blown up about narcissistic personality disorder. Every other thing I see is like narcissistic abuse recovery. And, you know, they yelled at me and they cheated on me. So they're a narcissist. They're a psychopath. And I mean, seriously, even my psychologist, brilliant, just brilliant. Um, she even said herself, 99% of these people have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Because, I mean, just labeling everything narcissist, it's like, or psychopath. Do you even know what the hell you're talking about? And it's an epidemic to me. It's a fucking epidemic that people are labeling every single thing narcissism. And it's just like, so, and I tell people, I said, well, you met an asshole is what you did. You didn't meet a narcissist. You met an asshole, love. Like, you know, and they're like, well, but they abused me. They were manipulative. And I said, you know how many personality disorders are fucking manipulative, dude? Like, I mean, we have people talk about cluster Bs all the time because now it really is this epidemic of everything is narcissism or they're a psychopath. But it's like we have cluster A's, we have cluster B's, we have cluster C's. So to constantly go back to these two things, it blows my freaking mind, dude. Like, this is another point where I feel people are just straight idiots because I'm like, no, okay, when you get right, like evaluated, kind of going back to that, right? When you get evaluated for something like this, it's not this like lighthearted evaluation that takes, a week. You have to have the childhood for it. You have to have the history of it. You have to have the patterns, the habits into adulthood. Like, this is not something that goes away. It's your state of, like, your chronic state of mind. It's not something where you falter and now, okay, you go to therapy and things are a little bit more fixed. Like, narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, they're personality disorders for a reason. So, like, to be labeling everything as narcissism and, you know, psychopathic, oh, you're such a psychopath, it's like, I feel like people don't even know what these words actually mean. Like,
I love your laugh.
thank you.
Yeah, I can listen to it bottled. Be drinking it every night.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, I mean, people be like, oh, I'm a little OCD or something. And it's like,
Uh,
OCD is crazy.
right,
OCD will like drive you to an early grave. Like, I don't think
right,
if somebody was kind of like a workaholic or something, or, like people
right.
normal people make choices,
Hmm. Well, yeah, and I think there's a little bit of, like, you could take certain traits of anything and place it, in someone. Like, I think everybody has, certain times where they're manipulative or, they're an asshole. So, like, I don't know. These labels, sometimes I just wish it'd be fucking renamed because it's just so, I don't know. At this point, it's just insanity and also very controversial, but I'll put it out there. I don't believe in narcissistic abuse. I don't believe in the term. I think it's bullshit. And oh yeah, there's a lot of people. I've said that in a live before, and it was a live for people who claim narcissistic abuse. And I went in there and I was like, "Hey, would you bring a psychopath up here?" And this person's like, "Sure, why not?" So, and I did. I said, "Well, I'm sick of y'all saying this shit because there is no such thing as narcissistic abuse." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, okay, just hear me out, right? Okay. We'll just take the cluster Bs, for example. All of us can have very extremes of, you know, gaslighting, manipulation, stuff like that, right? We all have very similar things. And what differentiates it is those details, right? Someone evaluating those very detailed traits and going, okay, this is what it is. But so if we all have a tendency for these traits, but then like the fine print, right, is like kind of what separates it in some ways. Um, then how, when you're abused by somebody that you don't even know if they truly have narcissistic personality disorder or not, how are you calling it narcissistic abuse? Like, okay, do you say antisocial abuse? No, you fucking screwball, you don't. And so why the fuck are you taking all of these traits that could heavily be associated with me or, someone who has ASPD and going, oh, well, yeah, it must be narcissistic abuse. Like, you don't say antisocial abuse. You don't say psychopathic abuse. You don't say borderline abuse. I fucking dislike borderlines, I'll be honest. We don't get along very well. But, you know, I've seen their very severe episodes that talk about manipulators. So, you don't say borderline abuse. You don't say, oh, they're histrionically abusing me. Like, so what the fuck is this whole narcissistic abuse? And there were some people who highly changed their opinions. I'm glad I put it out there, but like it made people really think, why are you actually using this word? And why are you using it in such tones and fashions? Because I think too, it does take away some things for people who actually have these disorders because you're just throwing anything on it. You're throwing it out there so lightly. But all of these traits that you say are narcissistic abuse could also go with any of the cluster Bs. So to just sit there and be talking about, well, narcissistic abuse, well, does that mean I'm psychopathically abusing you? Like what? Like, I just don't get it. I don't know how you feel about the term and how it's used, but I just don't believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I try to stay off of trends a little bit. And so I am like a little bit ignorant as to what are the things that people have been calling it. I do think it's kind of
Mm,
funny, the way that stuff does trend though. Like, I
right.
hear about it from other people. Sometimes people, like, I've gotten contacted by journalists before being like, "Oh, you must be aware of this TikTok trend of blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "No, but that's interesting to hear that it's a trend." And that you
Right.
recognize it as a trend and everybody kind of recognizes that as a trend, and yet nobody's
Hmm.
kind of thinking, is there legitimacy to this? Or is it
Right.
just kind of a trend the same way that, like hot pink was a trend when I was in middle school?
Right. Right. Zebra stripes.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, no, honestly, well, yeah. So, and to be honest, because I mean, I have a TikTok and I don't, I'm not really like everything on there is super anonymous. So nobody knows who I am, but it pulls up on my feed and like, I don't know, it's just things that I see that I come across, but it's narcissistic personality disorder is becoming just this buzzword. It's been like that for a while now, but it's incredibly irritating to talk about. And I do talk about it with mutuals because it's like I just don't. I guess, yeah, I know it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to see people take in something like a personality disorder like this and kind of just changing it into whatever they feel like, or they look at this baseline information. There was a girl the other day, I saw her, she put this out there and she said, well, I may not have a degree, but I know that I'm an expert in narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder because I experienced it. And I was like, nope, I'm I'm gonna get away. It's not even worth it to talk to these people. But it's like, oh, I was abused. So now I'm an expert in two personality disorders that I know nothing about because I don't even know if they were diagnosed with it or not. Like, it's just, oh God, it just boils me over. And but yeah, there's all these groups too. It's like narcissistic abuse recovery. And I'm like, I went inside of one and like I bullshitted the questions to get in it.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, I was abused. Like, I just like faked everything. And then I got into this group just to see what they were doing. And, people would post something and they would say something to the degree of, well, my husband was watching porn and, um, he lied about it and he's been lying to all of us for years. He was leading this double life. I just I just don't know what to think and like I feel so I don't know, there was something about like him exploiting her and all this different stuff. And like someone just automatically said, "Well, I can tell you right now he has narcissistic personality disorder." And I was like, "Where do you come up with this?" I just I just don't get it, dude. Like it's this I feel slightly offended by it just because it's like I do, as much as like I try to not make ASPD my whole identity, it's who I am. It's just this part of my like everyday. It's part of my relationships, There is no relationship where ASPD does not exist. Like my traits don't exist. So it is my everyday and I don't appreciate people turning it into a fucking clown show the way that they do and the misconceptions and the misinformation out there is just wild.
yeah. I could see why you're offended. I mean, it's like blackface or whatever. It's like
Right.
people pretending that certain people are or are not.
Yeah, I think it's the amount that it's come to. I mean, this is like a global fucking epidemic of people just putting this out there and it's like I see it on everything. And I'm like, dude, I this is why I stay away from like heavy social media because I just can't do it. Or I see very kind of like I don't know if you've ever looked at, other people's videos of like psychopathy and stuff and like looked at the comments, but I look at some of these comments under these videos where, they're interviewing a psychopath or something and it just it's like this one lady said, "Oh, well, look, he was offended by this, so therefore he does feel emotion, therefore he's not a psychopath." Like just I mean, oh my God. How do you get to this conclusion, dude? Like I just don't get it.
I think some of it comes from a little bit like we were talking before, where they have so many context clues that they rely on, like the juice pay, where
Mm,
it's like they're used to seeing things go one way and then they go a
right,
different way and they're like, how can we pathologize this? Oh, call it
right,
narcissism, but it's really just human nature is complicated and it's
right.
going to buck your expectations. But I think that it is like this, you do see this idea that you want to pathologize bad behavior. I think because
Hmm.
it makes it seem like you're not capable of that behavior because you're not one of them, you're not one of the bad
Right,
people.
right. Well, I don't know what you think of this, but in my opinion, too, I think in a way, like average people who have these emotions and this morality, it's like they have to find something to reason with.
What do you mean reason with?
Like almost in a sense of because they just could never wrap their mind around what this person is doing, or they're like this very religiously moral person. It's like they look at something like, okay, like what I've done, and they have to find some sort of something to reason with. So they throw out all of these, like, or people who are abused, right? They cannot understand why this person did what they did. So they have to label it as something. They have to find something to reason with in order to make it make sense in their own minds.
That's interesting to me. It actually reminds me of what your mom said about it, that
Mhm.
God would never let that happen.
Right. Just so you know, your video froze.
Yeah, let me try to turn it off and on. In the meantime, though, does that seem rightish to you about your mom?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, she is one of those people who can justify anything, but she's very she has a strong, like, okay, I'm a Christian, which, I mean, I have my own faith in my own sense, right? But it's I would say it's a little bit different, but my mom, so like last year, right, for my birthday, she loves to stir up things on my birthday. And I don't celebrate my birthday. I haven't celebrated it since I was very young, because I know that's kind of it's always been one of those days where I knew something was coming. So it's a very eerie day for me. Um but like, she wrote me a letter last year on my birthday talking about how she has already prayed, and God, like, she's already confessed what she's done to God. So therefore, how did she word it? I used to have the letter on hand. I could have read it. But either way, basically,
When did she send the letter again?
it was my birthday last year.
Okay, so recently.
And, because she loves to, my birthday is her favorite day for nonsense. Um, It really is. But in this letter, I've already prayed. I've already asked God for forgiveness for all the things that have happened. So I'm going to stop beating myself up about it, because God has already forgiven me. Hope you can too. And I'm sitting here going, I mean, she is such a narcissistic person that, like, I really, truly, at this point in her life, I don't think she would ever become self aware. I don't think that she would ever get diagnosed by a psych with anything. I don't know if it would be NPD. I don't know if it would be BPD. I don't know what it would be. But it's just like, and I'm sitting here going, because she knows I have a personality disorder. And I've asked her flat out, where do you think it came from?
That's
And
really interesting because I feel
yeah.
that same way about my own parents. I told them of this story recently about how I got a pizza off the side of the road and ate it. And they're like, "Yeah, that's crazy that you did this." And I was like, "But you guys don't think that anything weird happened with food growing up?"
Right. Exactly. It's like they wipe their memories of it, because you hear a lot of, I feel like, people from my generation, a little bit before, I hear it a lot with these parents that are just so blind, like, oh, that never happened, could never be me. And so, but my mom, I've asked her, and she said, well, you were adopted and your mom did drugs. So probably came from that. And I just,
Sorry, I'm adding myself as
It's
a from
from
my
my
phone.
phone.
Hold
Hold
on.
on. Shut up.
Go ahead.
Okay, there we go. It's like you're there on the screen, but then you're not. So I don't know what it's gonna show in this, but
It'll show it like
it's
this. It'll be fine.
okay. So yeah, like on my side, it's just how mine is, like the camera's off.
Well, do you also see like me on the camera? It's both, right?
No.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably because your phone setting or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll even
Well,
hide
either.
non-video participants. Bam, done. All right.
Yeah, it might just be on my side. So hopefully, hopefully that works. But yeah, so my mom, um, she I don't think she'll ever forgot what I was saying, but I don't think she'll ever, really see or admit to the things going on. But about my birth mother, and I have an aunt who does psychology, she has her degrees. And I talk to her a lot about having ASPD, but she kind of rolls her eyes because it's like, how could my mom think my personality disorder came from my birth mother in the womb? Like, and some people, yes, will argue, well, psychopaths are born. But even many psychologists say that's not necessarily the case. Yeah, some people, but some people truly in like their upbringing, the upbringing, right? You can have the gene for mental health issues, but your environment is truly what molds and shapes that. So, like talking to my mom, which I rarely do anymore, but she just it's like she constantly is like, she'll either avoid the question or she'll, well, God's already taken care of this, and it's just like, God, you will just never see it, right? Like, you will never ever fucking see the flowers from the trees. And I've accepted that. I accepted it a long time ago. But she still tries to meddle in my life. I mean, when I wasn't talking to her, she sends letters to my house. She tries to find out from other people what I'm doing. And I've had to tell family and people, if I speak with you, don't talk about my life with her, please, because she doesn't need to know. She's a cunt. I hate her. And when I think about my parents, I don't think it should have been my dad that died. Um, and it is kind of disappointing that it was him in some ways. But my mom, um, you know, she even like after my dad died, right? There was a will, very small one, but my dad did have benefits for, afterwards. And my mom, like even my uncle told me, hey, I did talk to your dad about a will before he died. So I know it's there, but I think like we needed someone to be there for it or something. You know how they get attorneys or whatever. And so my uncle told me about that. He said, I made sure because I know that your mom didn't feel the same about you as your dad. So I want to make sure that you get what's fair to you, what your dad wanted you to have. And like whatever my dad wanted me to have, I don't really care about like material things like, but out of his benefits, which to be honest, if my dad said you're not getting any, that's fine too. Like I respect what my dad wanted and didn't want, But, you know, all of a sudden, like when we went to talk to my mom about it, there is no will. What are you talking about? And I went, excuse me? And to this day, so my dad died December 4th, December 3rd or 4th of 2023. And to this day, she says there is no will. I did try. I tried to find who they went through because what she doesn't realize, I was on the phone the day that the person came over to the house and they were doing those papers. So I knew my dad did a will. My uncle knows my dad did a will, but my mom denies it. And so she just made up whatever she wanted to give me from those benefits. And I think it just shows her level too of just being a real piece of shit because she plays with it like, okay, well, I get to decide what you get from your father's benefits. And then she knew I was going through a lot with the cervical cancer, my divorce, my children. And so she would kind of like, oh, well, like she knew that the money was good for me and it was beneficial in some way because of what I was going through. But she used that to meddle around in my fucking life. Like, okay, well, um, I'm gonna give you this, but like, and then she would try to change it depending on if she liked or didn't like what I said. And so there's a lot of things that I have to fake it till I make it with her. But, it's like stupid shit too, where, well, are you going to go to church this Sunday or not? Because I feel like that's what your dad really would have wanted. And, I am giving you our retirement money. So, and I'm like, what a cunt, dude. Like, it just shows it. Like, she's always been like that. It's just so manipulative and nasty.
That's what I like too about my own parents and like their weird kind of reactions to things. Um Here, let me change this real quick. I thought I turned everything off. Is that they not only disconnect my audio. They not only they in their old age, they're up to more bullshit, which like makes me think it's always been this way, And in fact, my
Right.
nephew said something recently. I'll keep it generic just in case anybody gets upset or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Uh,
Sure.
hmm?
I said sure.
Yeah, that he kind of said something to my girlfriend. He's like, I don't believe that such and such parent has only gotten this way in the past few years. They've been like this my whole life or whatever. Like also
Right.
saying like they've been up to bullshit kind of like this whole time. And it's like
Right.
really easy to kind of think, hey, something seemed like maybe it got weird when you can see it got weird yesterday. When you can see it got weird on the 4th of
Right.
July, when you can see it got weird last Christmas, when
Mm-hmm.
you can see all these different
Mm-hmm.
things, it's like not hard
Right.
to kind of suspect that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. And I think that like right now, so I'm kind of going through this process right now in therapy because I don't know like really how to process stuff with my father because mommy and daddy issues. What a charm. Um but it's like my dad, so like my father empathetic to his core. Like if we didn't close off his funeral for like a certain amount of people, I mean, the whole workplace would have gone. I mean, the kind of stories that I listened to about my father, just never, like, even though he was a Christian man, he wasn't one of those people who said, okay, I'm a Christian and now I'm going to judge people and now I'm going to be hypocritical, like in some sense. Because I mean, yeah, there were our own personal things that I knew about where I felt like he was, but in everyday life, I mean, he would listen to people, you know, he was the person that people went to and, you know, I I need to talk to someone about this. And he would sit down with you and he would never place a judgment on you. He would just talk with you about it. He would just, no matter what it was, it didn't matter what it was. Um, but so like my dad, in a lot of ways, he was a good person, but then the downfall and the downfall of our whole family, especially for me and him, was this like almost like a like how people talk about trauma bonds to my mother. And so, you know, he would bend to her will. She was manipulative with him. Um, she knew how to play that game really well, and I saw it. I saw it my whole childhood. Um, and you know, the screaming and the crying, it's like her, she had done something to me one time, and you know what? I'll tell this story right quick. So when I was 15, my dad, I was probably like 14 because I was what, freshman ish era. My dad bought me an AC/DC t-shirt and I was like so thrilled because he got me all, you know, into AC/DC and Motorhead and, you know, a lot of those. And he bought me this AC/DC t-shirt my mom would have never bought me, you know. And it was so cool. It was like purple and white and black. I just loved it. I wore it all the time. Like my parents would have to be like, "Hey, we got to wash that," you know. And it was just my favorite shirt. And it meant a lot because it was from him, you know, too. And I felt like we went out because we went out, had lunch together. He bought me this shirt. It was a nice time. It was an actual nice time. And you know, one day when my mom was on one about, you know, whatever the fuck it was, and we were fighting and fighting, my mom went upstairs and she came back downstairs. My dad was home because it was a weekend. And my mom takes my shirt. She gets a pair of scissors out of the drawer.
Why do parents cut up
And
shirts of their
no,
children?
no, seriously. And so she goes outside. I don't even know why it was outside. And she starts cutting it up saying, "This is possessing you. This is the devil. That's what's making you like this." And she starts screaming in the backyard about this. And so I, you know, like immediately because of that fight response, right, that we talk about, and I'm wrestling with her for the scissors, for the shirt. I'm hitting her. I'm everything to get this away from her. And I'm screaming at my dad, "Why aren't you doing anything?" And he's standing there and he's like, I'll never forget this memory because I felt like this was kind of one of those more profound moments of like, you are so abusive and you are such a moron. Like, he's just standing there telling her to stop. And she could have stabbed me with those fucking scissors. So he's watching this play out. He's not stepping in. And I remember looking at him and I said, "Are you going to fucking kill her or not?" And he was like, "Excuse me?" And I was like, "Excuse you, bitch?" Like, what an idiot to just stand there. And so, you know, that was kind of one of those things that was like with my mom, it just like, oh my God. Like and cutting up that shirt, like I know other people's parents have done it, but that's the thing is like that's where like this mommy daddy both kind of issue comes into play because even though my father was this good man, everyone loved him, but like on the other side, he is justifying this abuse with God, right? Like we need to be gracious and empathetic and compassionate, but like he took it to the extreme where his child, he's watching his child get abused to like not even just that degree. Obviously, it goes much deeper, but to severe degrees. And he's still justifying it with love and mercy and grace and forgiveness. And I always just, it was so when my dad died, you know, him and I had agreed to talk about things because one thing was I threw it in his face one day and I said, you know, Dad, now that I'm a little bit older too, I want to throw this out there. You talk about how my ex husband is so abusive to me and the kids, but have you ever taken notice of the fact that mom has said and done the exact same things as him through my whole fucking childhood? When are you going to wake the fuck up? And he, you know, at first he was like, oh, how dare you talk to me like that, you know? And then he came to me later on and he said, you're not wrong, you know? And I was like, not wrong about what? He said, I think a lot about mom and your ex husband. And unfortunately, you're right. And I said, well, but are you going to use the word or are you still going to pretend like the word abuse is something we can't use? And he said, no, you're right. She was abusive. And I said, wow. Like I was actually very taken back that he was willing to admit it. But at the same time, he didn't want to do it in front of my mother, you know? And so then when he died, right? Because death for me, and I don't know about for you, but it's not this like how average people think of it or process it. And so when he died, it was just the strangest sensation. Like, because I was actually close to my dad in a lot of ways. And I felt like in some ways he was more validating than my mother, especially when it came to, you know, being diagnosed with things. And he was a lot more supportive on that front. But the way that I think about him covering up a lot of the abuse also left a lot of weird things behind for me. And so my dad, like, when he died, having that closeness, but also that huge resentment that, like, we didn't get to talk more about it. So, and like, I'm sitting there going, I remember like a few weeks after he died, I'm sitting there like, it's not like I can't even force myself to cry. I just kind of have to sit with this weird feeling of I'm bothered, but I don't know what to do with it. And like, uh, I don't know what to think. I don't know how to process something like that. Not to mention, you know, what my ex-husband had done to me the night my father died. So it just, I feel like it's, like I'm still going through this process with my father about and like going through a lot of therapy to try and kind of maybe fill in some pieces of like how to process his death for someone like me and how to also kind of fill in the blanks of everything that happened. But it's been this like weird process cuz yeah, my mom, like, she's the one that's left, right? And I don't talk to her really. And I hate her to my absolute core. And I know she's never going to see anything within herself. So it's just kind of this weird dynamic. And that's kind of, you know, like with my mom, it just, I don't know, these parents, man, like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I for a long time I thought it was like my dad, like exclusively like my
Mm,
dad. And in the past few
mm-hmm,
years, both parents are like in their 70s and kind of like losing it a little bit in actually like ways that my grandparents had lost it. So in ways that I kind of assume are
mm,
kind of a genetic predisposition to losing it. Like I talked to my cousin
right.
about it. He's like, our moms are the same, about this. And so was our grandmother. Our maternal grandmother was the same about
Mm,
this. But kind of like, how can you be around like my dad was more overtly nar abusive. Like my mom
mm-hmm,
never hit me, but like
right.
in other weird things where I kind of realized even just like a week ago or something, like it's just so weird
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm,
to see her act kind of in these ways, in ways that I remember being like, man, you were like this when I was like 11. I remember you being on
right,
some bullshit about some food because the other
right.
day she was like, Jiffy peanut butter in my house? No. Like not in my house
Mm-hmm,
or whatever.
right.
Where she was just kind of like such a weird purity thing about food. And I thought, another thing, so like getting back to this thing I said before about the food scarcity and like each one of
Yeah,
my siblings kind of being like, no, we didn't experience food scarcity, even though each one of them has food issues. One's like a binge eater, one is like has had like
right.
plastic surgery and like body issues, and the other one's eating baby chocolate milk
Oh
that's
Lord,
been
yeah.
sitting out for like
Hello.
hours on the table or
Oh
whatever.
my, yeah. Right.
And I'm eating pizza out of a alleyway.
Right. But no food issues.
Yeah. But I did think I was like, one of the reasons why they may not feel that way is it may be like more traumatic for them in like this emotional way that they've kind of blocked out more, number one. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, they
Right.
may have been kind of like how you saw everybody like a soda can, that
Yeah.
everybody's a resource. They may have been more kind of communal thinking about it. Like, oh, we'll just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, I have these friends, I can get these resources from these friends in a way that they
Right.
just suffered a little bit less. And the other thing I
Right.
thought about, it's kind of separately from my siblings because they're like clearly messed up. I think all my in-laws, all their spouses are like, we think that you did some food insecurity. Like it's
Right.
pretty obvious to us.
Right.
And like their kids too, their kids know it too. Like just look at your parents and the way that they are with food. It's
Yeah.
like pretty easy to see it.
Right.
But
Oh,
with my
absolutely.
mom, she had like this her dream was to be an actress, like a musical theater actress.
Mm.
And she did
Yeah.
sometimes get gigs, and she had like a breast implantations for it because
Mm-hmm.
she one time heard like some casting director be like, well, I mean, we can't cast her because she's flat or whatever. And so she's like, I gotta
Right.
have. And so I thought probably some of the food scarcity was she was just dieting for whatever reason to
Mm-hmm.
get like a
Mm-hmm.
roll or something, and she just didn't want the food around the house, as a
Right.
temptation to
Right.
her. It's just
Yeah.
interesting to kind of see like how I'm like turning 46 soon, how my relationship, my understanding of my parents has changed so much, even in
Mm-hmm.
just the
Mm-hmm.
past few years. I used to think my mom was basically innocent. And now I'm like,
Right.
you're totally a co-conspirator. Number one. Number
Yeah. Yeah.
two, like you were on your own bullshit. And I was thinking, but my dad must have known this about us, must have known that we were starving because one of the things that my girlfriend always says is we would make Arby's sauce sandwiches, Arby's, the fast food chain.
Right.
And she's like,
Yeah.
but where were the Arby's sauces coming from?
Mm.
Why did we have like an
Right.
unlimited supply of Arby's sausage
Huh.
just constantly being replenished?
Right. Right. Yeah. No, there it is. That's interesting. Yeah, like I think we were going to talk about my parenting and kids more
Yeah,
earlier, but we kind of trailed off, which is fine. But it made me think of, because of this subject, how food problems have affected me and my children, because that's a huge one in my life. Like, so one, I am never the parent. Like, I over make sure we have food. And I do not, my kids are very healthy, but I don't, I am not the type of parent to, not give my kid a dessert, or, I'm very open about that because of how I was treated with food, but just my own issues. So, one thing I did have to get under control when it came to my kids was because food, like food, for me being a punishment. I mean, when I say food problems, like food is a very touchy thing for me because I snap on people very easily about it. Um, like when I was previously married, my husband, okay, you would think, okay, we're married, we got some food together, I'm gonna pick off your plate. Took a French fry, one French fry from me, and I slammed the food off the table into his face and walked off. And just fine, fucking have it all then, since you want to take it from me, you little bitch. And he's just sitting there going, "Oh my God, I am so sorry. Like, you know, I didn't mean to like make you think I was going to take it." And I was like, "Well, you are taking it. So you might as well have all of it since you want to take it anyways." And so like I had major, major problems with food in that aspect. I would become violent. So, and that just kind of shows too, in like in a prior relationship that I was in that was very abusive, someone kind of used that to their advantage. So that definitely didn't help my issues with food. It definitely made it worse because they kind of used that like they they would, take all the food from me, or like it was a very sick little game they played with me. But so like with my kids, right? I had to learn to get that under control because there were times where like my kids are kids, they want mommy's food. Mommy's food looks better than everybody else's or whatever. But I do remember, it's like one of my kids very unexpectedly came around the corner, and just those quick little cute hands just snatched the food off my plate and ran. And he's just shoveling it all into his mouth as he runs away. And my immediate reaction was very snap. I've never been one to like I'm not a yeller at my kids. I didn't want that to be a part of their lives. They've seen the issues between me and my ex-husband, but like me yelling to my children, no. But I did have a snap reaction in that moment of, how could you do this to me? How could you do this? And I took it very personally with my own child. And I saw the look in his eyes, when I snapped about that. And something about my child really took me out of that, and I immediately got a hold of my therapist and I said, "Hey, we need to talk about this because I feel like I really hurt my child, not physically, but the way he looked at me when I turned around and snapped on him for taking my food, it reminded me of myself looking at my mother as a child. And it really snapped me out of it. But at the same time, it was like, actually, maybe it was just kind of this profound moment where I knew I needed more help for the issues I had surrounding food and resources. But I'll never forget that because that was kind of the first time I had snapped on my kids about it. But I do have a tendency to take it very personally. And like, so that's what I tell people. And even my therapist was like, "Well, I do think that's kind of your wiring though too, right? This ASPD wiring where you do have a tendency to view things, people as challenging you in some way, even if that's not how they mean it, right? Like referring back to the girl who kicked me during the handstand, right? Like I immediately had this view, you're doing this on purpose to me, to hurt me, to try and get to me in some way. And I realized, like, I even felt that towards my child. You know, he took my food because he wants to upset me in some way. And I had to very quickly snap myself back from that because that is a child. And I've never had, like I said, those moments of like, I've never turned around and screamed at my child in such tones and fashions. But I did have that moment of like, how could you do this to me? And I realized I needed a lot more help because, it's kind of delusional, right? To think, okay, your own child is taking your food because they want to harm you in some way. So it's been a very difficult process. I still have problems with food to this day. Anybody who threatens a resource, it doesn't matter if they're a partner, and like even if they love me, right? If they take something of mine like food, I have very poor reactions to that. Like very just like like off the cuff, just okay, we're done. I can never speak to you again because I can't deal with it. It's such like a touchy thing for me. And, food. So just so everyone knows, like that's the effects of what people using food against someone can do from the time I was young. Like I didn't care if I had to, and that's what kind of grew in me, right? Too. Like I didn't care if I had to take your life in order to get it. I just knew that I needed it. So I had to be able to take it one way or another. And you can't have empathy when you are fighting for a resource that you need. So, but even to this day, yes, it's still a problem of mine that um, I talk about with people up front, especially if it's going to be a potential partner, because they have to understand like you can't do this unless you want to have a bad day. But like
We're all
I
gonna have a
do.
bad day. You're gonna have a bad day. I'm gonna have a bad day.
Right. So, and I'm dating again. I
Nice.
am kind of out there starting that process and I'm in a good place. And I've made, kind of my list of things when I have a potential partner to discuss about this disorder, to discuss about myself. But very one of the top things, yeah, it's food. Like, hey, just so you know, don't ever think, don't ever sniff a hint that you will be taking food off my plates. And if I ever have a nice box of something that I got for myself, do not touch it. Because if I even think it's moved in the fridge, I'll start blaming people for it.
Hmm.
So don't do it.
That's interesting that that's like one of the things that you have to talk about, but I think it is good. It like illustrates how damaging things can be, but it kind of makes sense. Do you remember hearing about like the Romanian orphanage children?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like little things can affect us in such crazy ways.
Right. Well, yeah, and you're not wrong. It is kind of it is. It's an interesting conversation to have with somebody. But to me, I kind of think of it like, well, telling someone I'm a clinically diagnosed psychopath is also an interesting conversation. So might as well just get it all out there.
Do you have like a list? Like I have a list of things when I go to a gig to bring, amplifier,
Yeah,
backup amplifier, two cords,
right.
two tuners. Do you have like a
Oh
list? Is
yeah.
it like an actual list?
Oh, literally, because I think I was telling you, but I have notebooks full of just stuff about myself, about ASPD, about psychopathy. And so I have a list of things where So like for a potential partner, this is what you need to be aware of if you are going to pursue some sort of a relationship with me. Like, this is what you have to know and be aware of. And, like if it's not for you, I understand. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, this is going to be fucking easy, man. Because it's not. Like, this is a very challenging disorder in and of itself. It has complexities, but so I was telling someone the other day, I heard someone say the disorder of unfairness. And I was like, huh. And I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, I could definitely see how it could be, you know, unfair on some level, some of the things that, a partner may have to endure because of it. So yeah, I keep a good list of like the bigger stuff that it'll come up, right? Because there are people, since I've started dating again and actually, trying to form a relationship and connections with people, where I'll talk to them about stuff and I realized I had to go a little more in depth because I felt like people, I would tell them, yeah, I have ASPD, I have psychopathy, right? But then when they saw a certain trait come out, it like threw them for a loop. And then they were like, they wanted to back out of it. And so I made it a little bit more, detailed, but especially too, right? Because I don't know if it's just like, I don't know what it is, but a lot of people with anxiety or depression or overthinking habits like attract themselves to me, or I attract them. And so that can make it a little complicated, right? Because there has to be a level of, one, me very much controlling myself, but number two, they have to understand that there are certain traits and things that are just they're going to be there. And like kind of what I wrote that's in your blog, right? About how you can't just have someone like me continuously overexerting my baseline to perform for you, because it's not, well, I wouldn't even say perform, because I do genuinely care. I'm just very picky, right? Like I pick and choose who's worthy of compassion from me. I choose who's worthy of what I show to them. And but if you make somebody like me like overexert this baseline of having to put on a mask, it's going to fall, and it's going to fall hard. So there's like a balance that has to be kept in very tight shape. Um, but I do think any partner, it's like, just let them take off the mask with you. Stop making them exert this like effort into cognitive empathy or cognitive, XYZ. Just let them be who they are. And you have to also, on the other side, control yourself a little bit. Don't take everything so personal, right? Because a lot of people, I'll just be sitting there like my neutral self, like who I just am when I'm not putting the mask on, so to speak. And it bothers them. It's very bothersome to people because they feel like I'm not even human sometimes. They're like, are you, you're like a robot, or you're just so cold, you're just so yeah, just kind of like very unnaturally neutral about things. And so those are things I really do. Like there's a long list, obviously, but there's a lot that I have to talk to a potential partner about. And it's not easy, dude. Like it is not easy trying to find friends or a partner by any stretch of the imagination.
It's interesting because of I
I almost have said this as a catchphrase now that I just don't think you can mask at home. I don't think that's sustainable to
Yeah,
feel like you have to mask in your own home around
right.
like it that's where you shouldn't have to mask if anything. Like
Right.
I just think it's as you say, like if somebody forces you to mask at home, that mask is eventually going to fall and it's going to fall hard. And I actually think this is
Yeah.
like a good sort of way for people to understand in general. Like I think a lot of the bad
Hmm.
psychopath behavior comes not from the psychopathy itself, but from putting so much effort into masking
Right.
that you just kind of like lose it, eventually. You're like,
Yeah,
it's like a strain.
absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, it is. No, it really is. And it does. It causes people to cross this line where, you know, if I'm having to do it for so long, or say for example, my partner, this has happened, but my partner's very happy because like I am trying to make them happy, but like I do overexert it. And then the downfall from that becomes this huge fight about, well, you were just so happy and you were treating me so good. And now for the next week, you're treating me like shit, dude. And I'm like, because I feel like you're making me walk on fucking eggshells. And right there, people will always turn it around to me and say, well, you're the one with ASPD. You're being abusive,
Yeah.
right? Well, I'm the one having to walk on eggshells, making sure I don't piss you off. And people will always say, well, you're the abusive one for that. But I'm not. I truly don't believe I'm not, or truly believe I am, because I'm trying to find a balance where, okay, my partner can feel safe enough and comfortable enough around me, but also not having to like perform this happiness or feel like I have to emote on demand for them. And because right then the questions come, well, you know, you will, your tone, like it's different, right? Because people like that, they start to question everything. And then another fight happens. And then, of course, in the end, I'm always going to be the one who's called abusive. So, but I really don't I feel like there has to be more people that talk about the other side of it, because if I am in a partnership with you and I'm trying my best to have that balance, but you're the one who keeps tipping the scale with all of your questions and all of your like expecting me to emote on demand for you, and then you get upset and scream and cry and fly off the handle when I seem cold, when it's more just my natural state. That's a huge problem. I feel like I'm not the problem in that, particular circumstance, because what do you expect from me? Like I can only go so far with that, and you're over pushing it. Like I'm trying to be honest, I'm trying to be upfront, I'm going to therapy, and I don't think that people are willing to admit that though, right? Because it's so much easier for them to say, well, you're a psychopath, you're abusive, end of story. And so it gets very frustrating.
I actually think that this is like something in the same way that we just think differently about parenting than we do 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or whatever,
Hmm.
what's good or bad parenting, like what's actually causing good and bad results. I think that psychopaths, like, can I say something that's like a little bit of a characterization of you?
Yeah.
I can tell you've gone to therapy. This alone, I can tell you've gone to therapy because I feel like a lot of psychopaths are kind of like they're so kind of in this lockstep weird dance with
Right.
normal people, especially in an intimate relationship, where
Mm-hmm.
they think if the person is saying this stuff, then I must be the abusive one. And I think they honestly do think. I think they're like, well, I'm the
Right.
psychopath, so I must be the fuck up about this. So it's got to
Right.
be me. So I need a mask even more. Like, I feel like
Right.
even in my relationship with my girlfriend, also a psychopath, she used to do this to herself. And I was like, I do not care. She'd be like, I just can't deal with the stress of being a girlfriend all the time. And I was like, no one's asking you to perform girlfriend. That is something
Right.
that you have chosen to
Right.
do in whatever way for whatever reason. But I think it is kind
Right.
of like this idea we mentioned earlier, this idea of like internalizing sometimes stuff until it is a little bit like self-fulfilling prophecy, like kind of way you
Right.
think of yourself as repulsive or you think of yourself as like the evil one, and so then you also assume
Right.
it's your fault. Like this happened in some of
Yeah.
my friendship
Yeah.
relationships too, where I would think, okay, yeah, the friendship ended, it's probably me. And honestly, now that
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like the same thing with my parents, now that I see them in different lights, it's like 20 years into a
Right.
friendship, I'm like, I think that actually was your fuck up, not mine.
Right.
18
Right.
years ago or whatever. Like, I think
Yeah.
you were the one who was like, and I just didn't understand personal boundaries at all. I just didn't understand
Right.
that's on you.
Right.
If you want that sort of performing emotions on cue or whatever, that's
Mm-hmm.
not reasonable to expect from me.
Right. Absolutely. No, I totally hear you on that. And that's exactly what it is. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad I'm glad you can tell I went to therapy, right? Because I've been doing my damnedest. And it's like something people talk about, especially potential partners, and it kind of goes in line with what you said there. But in some ways, like I've had people ask me, so how do I know? And I go, how do how do you know what? And they said, well, but like you have done this therapy and you are more advanced for someone, with psychopathy. So how do I know like whether you're using that to play the field to make me trust you because you are so believable, or whether you genuinely mean it? And I said, well, something you have to understand, I think this might help for someone like me, right? If I don't want to, I fucking won't, and it's gonna fall quick. It's gonna fall quick, hard, fast. I it's not gonna be consistent, right? Like, so because for someone like me, you have to really want something. Like going to therapy had to be a major, major, major conscious decision. So, like to a very high level. So, for me, like I tell them, okay, I'm not going to spill all my secrets, but I think one good way to really differentiate whether I mean something or not, or like maybe I'm pulling your strings or not, listen to what I say. Like really listen to what I'm saying and doing, or listen to what I'm saying and look at what I'm doing. Not just the overview, right? Like not just the top of the water, but go into the depths, because you will, like if I'm pulling your strings, you're going to catch those inconsistencies. You're going to catch those little things in between. Always, always, always match the action to the words. Am I telling you and that's where it ends? Or am I telling you and showing you? Right? For example, I say I'm going to therapy and doing the work on this particular thing. So am I saying it and it's progressive, Or am I saying it and you're not seeing anything come from it? You need to kind of look at those. Are the actions matching the words? And if they're not, then you're going to know. But, there's like people who still, it's like they always question it, because I do, of course, have a history of flip flopping. It just is what it is, right? Like, my best friend knows better than anyone. Um, I can easily one day just flip the switch. And it's unfortunate that people do have to have that in the back of their mind. Like, she could just like have this urge and flip the switch one day, and I could be history in her life, like at the drop of a hat, never looking back. I wouldn't even know where, she went. But I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, I do go to therapy. I have proof I go to therapy. Um, I have progress reports from therapy of what I'm working on, where I'm still struggling at, stuff like that. And I ask for them for a reason. So, I would say to potential partners, like, take that into consideration, right? That that I'm very open about it, and that it's not something I'm trying to hide. I'm not just pulling your strings. Like, I do participate. And I'm consistent. I'm very consistent. I talk to you, I message you, I call you, like, I involve you in every aspect of my life. Even when I hate the vulnerability, because vulnerability disgusts me. It's always disgusted me. Like, if somebody catches me in a moment where, like, I'm feeling some type of way, or they see a little bit of something out of me, it makes me angry because I don't like vulnerability. It just sickens me. So if I'm showing this to you, I think you should take it into consideration as a potential partner. Like, and people, like, you should give me the chance. Like, don't just write me off.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. I got in a little bit of a fight with somebody about this. They were like, "Yeah, and it's you can't choose whether or not you're, involved with a psychopath or with a narcissist or whatever." I was like,
Mm,
"Don't you though?" Like, can you
right,
come up with an example in which you don't choose? Like, I can understand you
right.
co-parent. That's probably the one that's obvious to me. The rest of it, though, I think a lot of people are in these situations in which
Mm-hmm.
they want to kind of cede their agency and kind of pretend as if that's not something that they've chosen. When they have
Right,
chosen it, there's like a lot of choices. Maybe it's not
right,
just one choice, and maybe it's hard to kind of pay attention to those choices as much or
right.
something. But yeah, I mean, that's the best I think that you can offer somebody is, and
Yeah.
really good advice about um, being able to tell whether you're pulling somebody's leg or not, like
Right.
bullshitting them.
Yes. And I will say, because I want her to be publicly recognized, but my best friend, so I plan to get this tattoo for her, and it's of Jiminy Cricket.
Mm,
And the reason is because we call her my conscience. And she is my saving grace. She is the saving grace of everyone in my life. She is the most accepting, but also not afraid to like beat me over the head with a brick. So when needed, and she has balls, dude. Like, she confronts me about some stuff. I'm like, huh, you got audacity. I like it though. So, but where I lack, there she is. So like, there's so many situations where, she lives up the street from me. I got so lucky. My best friend is right there, literally right there. And I'll just call her. I'm coming over. I got things to say about people, and I'll go over there and it's like whoever it's about, I'll just start talking away about it. And she'll go, she'll go, best friend. And she'll start telling me either all the things that they're doing wrong or all the things I'm doing wrong. And so, kind of where like I lack this awareness sometimes of why somebody feels the way they feel, she's she's the one who fills in the blanks for me. And she can explain it in a way, like she's learned to explain it in a way that I can understand. And so I have like the most beautiful, amazing best friend in the world. Like she's basically family to me. Like I made her my family. Her kids are like my own. She has a way of speaking to me that for some reason just many years ago, like she just learned. She just learned how I operate and she rolls with it, dude. Like she's incredible, really. She really is. I have such a deep care for her, but she also knows she's so funny. We were in the car, it was a few months ago. We're driving, we're having a nice little drive together, chatting away, chumming it up. And she said, best friend, when I die, would you mind making sure that you're the one who gets my body so you can put me like under the tree in the yard? And I said, sure, why? And she goes, because you're the only bitch I know who could fucking do it. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, here's the thing. I feel like a lot of people keep getting upset with you because they ask you these questions that hurt their own feelings, like, well, if I died, would you be sad? And she goes, oh, bitch, I know you're not going to shed a damn tear. So, and that's fine with me. That is totally fine with me. I just need you to take my body because, I would love the kids to have a private place to go. And I said, yeah, I can do that. But like, she just rolls with it. She's like, hey, look, I know you're not going to cry when I die, and I don't take it personally. I know you care for me in your own way, in your own pocket pathway, my little trash panda, my little crock pot. I know you care for me. You just have a different way of showing it. So I'm not offended that you're not going to cry over me because I know deep down you care. And so, she always steps in. She's just that amazing middle ground. She's my part of my conscience when I don't even know if I'm doing right or wrong. And even for potential partners, like I think, if they become a significant part of my life, she is probably the gold star to go to. And both of us tell people, okay, like when someone comes into my life and they know about me, and I remember, and we just kept adding to it, but I said, number one, and she said it, number one, you ain't Handy Manny and you ain't Bob the Builder. So don't come around here trying to fix shit that ain't broken. Number two, you ain't Dr. Phil, motherfucker. So don't be trying to examine a diagnosis that ain't yours. And don't be trying to Captain Save a Ho, because we ain't here for that. And lastly, we really love ghostly season around here. I love living in the season of the ghost because I love me some good transparency. And I'm willing to be real transparent with you So I expect you to be real ghostly, motherfucker. If I tell you about me and my stuff, I expect full transparency in return. So we call it living in ghostly season because I'm willing to be real ghostly and transparent about my stuff. So you better be too. And she tells everyone this. She's just a hoot. She's so funny. And so, like, I just love that I have that buffer where I feel like so many people don't. They don't have someone to come in and say, okay, I've been in it for years. This is how you deal with it. You know, when she's doing this, just let it go. Don't take it personal. Like she's just this buffer for me. I feel like she's a buffer for other people. And like she says, it's not that I think you can't handle yourself. I know you can handle yourself, but I'm tired of watching people try to take advantage of it. Or like when you do talk to them about this, I'm tired of seeing people try to twist it or getting overly offended. So she's like, as someone who loves you, like I love my own children, yes, I'm going to be there to step in. Yes, I'm going to be there to tell people, hey, this is what you're in for. If you don't like it, goodbye. Don't try to fuck with it anymore. So I just shout out to her because a lot of people don't have that, especially not people like me. And I have somehow weaseled my way so far into her life and heart that she just, like, this girl would bend the heavens and the fucking earth for me. So,
I love this. Is this a good place to wrap up? I see on my phone somebody has scheduled a meeting with me. That's
like,
coming up.
yes, totally great.
Or do you have like any other closing thoughts about things? Anything else other than your bestie is
Mhm.
the best in the Westie?
Uh, Not really. I think that this was very productive and I hope people can take something from it.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
that I mean there's been a lot of interesting insights and just like the history and everything. I'm gonna move this so I
yeah.
can get ready to get out when it's time. So thank you so much for chatting me. Sorry for the tech difficulties and
Oh,
thank
you're
you
good.
for your openness. Thank you for your transparency. Your what did you say, ghostly season?
Yes.
For your ghostly season about this.
Yes. Well, thank you for your time. And you know what? Thank you for everything that you do because I still so much appreciate all those years ago when I saw you. And it just helped, like, you were like the reason why I even started this whole journey for myself. So,
I love to hear that so much.
yeah,
I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
of course. Well, appreciate your time and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too. I'll chat you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Later.